What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are normally a podcast, well, I guess technically we still are this week, a podcast that talks about the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss, as well as we try and check out some new shows. And this is officially our 2018 MMA Podcast Awards. This is the second inaugural year, so I'm excited to get into them. I should mention, I'm Pulver, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Excited, man. I'm excited to break down this award show we got going on here.
Yeah.
Second one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for sure, and we're changing up the format quite a bit this year. I should open up by saying that the reason why I wanted to do these awards last year and I wanted to keep doing them is because some of my favorite podcasts in general, but especially MMA podcasts, are, well, actually that's not true. Some of my favorite podcasts in general are like the year-end award shows that they do. For example, I think my two favorites of all time are the Film Vaults, the Vaulties, and Giant Bomb's Game of the Year podcast, which we are actually going to be using a little bit more of Giant Bomb's Game of the Year podcast format this year. We have, I think, 9 or 10 categories, something like that. And Chris and I are going to go through and kind of just basically talk about our nominees and then pick one live on the show. Excuse me. So I wanted to kind of use more of their format, because I think it's more interesting for you to hear how we come to the conclusion of the winners rather than just like the winners and then the runners up. So it should be an interesting process to do this live. I'm pretty excited for it. So let's see. You're not drinking on anything this week, right?
No, I nearly drank myself to death last night because I'm a responsible adult.
Sounds like it.
So I am having one of our not too often recurring unofficial sponsors.
Oh, that's right. Our Papa Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our totally real, super not fake sponsors.
Yeah, so coming back again with a vengeance. Pedialyte, Advanced Care Plus.
Nice. Coming through.
If you're ever feeling hungover, go to CVS. That's where I find them. I recommend that you drink this cold, not room temperature. It's not terrible, but it's just better.
I mean, that sounds about right.
What flavor? I might as well go all in.
That's right.
Fucking berry frost, dude.
Nice.
Real good. Yeah. That's
what's up. So this week on the podcast, I actually have a couple of fantastic beers that I picked up at the Shouts Out to Preferred Liquors out here in Santee. They have some fucking dope as hell bottles that I found. I am also on the side. I have the Luponic Distortion from Firestone Walker, their number 10, Ooh. Which is the mango creamsicle, peach ring, and ruby grapefruit one.
Oh, that one's so fucking good.
Yeah, it's also from the end of July when it was brewed, though, so it's not exactly ultra fresh, but it's not bad by any means. But more importantly, the first of two dope-ass beers that I have is I have the 2017 release of Modern Times Haunted Stars, which
what's that?
It's their Imperial Rye Porter with Nola coffee, and it's got notes of chicory and vanilla. So I'm excited to check this out. I saw they're using a Nola coffee, and it's an Imperial Porter, and it's from Modern Times. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to get that. Combo. Yeah, it was this or Monsters Park, and considering how big the other beer I have is, I didn't know if I could do an Imperial Stout and a barley wine. So should be interesting. But here, I will go ahead and try this out.
I was going to say, you don't want to be like me during our YouTube live episode where I'm falling asleep.
Oh, that was a pretty good one.
That was fun, though. That beer is really good, but I was thinking, why am I so fucking tired? I was like, God damn it, if only I could just have some coffee right now, but it was fun. You can't really do that when you're live. So.
For sure. And it was hilarious because you had a lot of big beers in that episode, to be fair to you.
Dude,
so.
Yeah.
You had an Imperial Stout, you had the Barrel-Aged Imperial Stout, you had a double IPA and an IPA.
Yeah, and then I think I took a shot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, you had a shot of that, like, 65% Buffalo Trace White Dog or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff didn't taste as bad as I thought it would.
This is a really good beer. It's pretty mellow. I mean, it was brewed in November of last year, so that's probably why it's mellowed a bit. But it's really good still. A lot of like, it's definitely got a light porter body. Like it's not, I think it's only 8%. It's not a crazy big porter, but it's really tasty. You can definitely get the vanilla and the coffee on it. And it doesn't have that like green bell pepper taste that you get sometimes with the coffee aged stuff.
Nice, dude. Yeah, those are ones I'm gonna have to check out as well.
Yeah, that's good. I'm excited to keep drinking on that. Anyway, this is not a booze podcast, despite my best efforts. So why don't we go ahead and jump into our format for this award show? So we're going to start the award show by actually awarding or giving an award to one of us. Because I don't know if you know about this, but I've been keeping track of our fight picks throughout the year.
Ooh.
So,
Nice.
Our 2018 Sound of Violence Best Fight Picker of the Year goes to you, bruh.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Now, here's the crazy thing. So, you actually picked more fights correct than I did, and I got more methods correct.
I see.
So, I think the methods, which we didn't count round, we just counted basically decision, KO, or sub.
Yeah.
I think you had 49 this year, and I had 64. Which makes sense because I did a lot more tape study than you did towards the beginning of the year, so
That's true.
That kind of adds up. But here is the crazy part. So we all together picked 508 fights this year.
Okay.
You had 306 fights correct, 202 fights wrong.
That's actually really fucking
It
good.
is, and I had... So you had 306 right. I had 304 correct and 204 wrong. So you literally picked two more fights correct than I did to win it.
That's insane.
Yeah, I really caught up a lot in the last, 2 weeks, I think it was. Because you had a pretty big lead on me up until then. But, yeah, it came down to literally the very last card.
I don't even know, by the way, if I picked Jones or Gus.
You had Jones, which is one of the two, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
man. So.
And then we both, had Cyborg probably?
I definitely had Amanda Nunes, I'm pretty sure.
Fuck, because when it was funny, funnily enough, I ended up betting a friend of mine, right before the fights, because I had bought the fights at my house. It had, what was this? Is this already just a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. But I remember I bought the fights. I had Trevor over, and you remember Dustin? He came over too.
Oh shit! I haven't seen Dustin in a minute.
I haven't seen that dude in forever. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I remember it was my coworker James, who's from Hawaii. He just loves throwing bets. He's like, right now, man, I got Cyborg, no way, Nunes. I don't know, I like her boxing, so $10, here we go. And then once that shit happened, he didn't even care. He lost it, because it was such a fucking insane ending to that fight.
Hell yeah, where she just fucking faceplants Cyborg.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if I picked Cyborg in the picks, but I definitely was leaning Nunes.
I'm pretty sure you had Cyborg
sure.
in it, but
Yeah.
I had Nunes, but I was nervous for good reason because Cyborg just came out and threw bungalows the entire time.
That's right.
But yeah, so congratulations for getting the most fights right this year on our picks by 2, you motherfucker.
I wonder how they would stack up to those MMA community guys, because I'm never on there. A piece of shit
I mean, some people would smoke the shit out of us. Trickster and Rock,
I'm sure.
Both murder me all the time on picks. But we do pretty good in fantasy though. So, speaking of which, I am real close to winning this quarter as long as nobody goes on a crazy run.
The quarterly league?
No, I'm talking about the year league. I'm dying a very quick death in the quarterly league.
God damn it! I gotta look that up again, because I think I have in the quarterly one. I think the only way I win is I have Dillashaw. And I think one other guy.
Yeah,
I think if
I've got Cejudo. I think
knocks Cejudo out in the first round, I have a shot. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure I have Cejudo in the quarterly one, so I'm fucked.
Oh yeah, and I have that piece of shit Greg Hardy, because they're giving him a can. And I'm like, well, if it's free points,
yeah,
having this piece of shit.
Yeah, so. that's a fucking morally bankrupt pick if I've ever heard one.
It is very. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Anyway, we should get back on topic. But yeah, congrats on getting the most picks right. So we're gonna go ahead and get into format. So the very first award we are gonna discuss is the most consistent MMA podcast in 2018. And our nominees are the MMA Roadshow, Heavy Hands, Co-Main Event Podcast, the MMA Vivisection, Luke Thomas's MMA Hour, JRE MMA Show, Submission Radio, Protect Your Neck, MMA Junkie Radio, Fights Gone By, and The Writer and the Fighter. So what we're going to do for each of these categories is we're going to try and come up with the top 3 in each one, and then we're going to go through and come up with a winner.
Sounds good.
And unlike last year, we're going to do a combined show pick rather than doing our individual ones to try and keep this a little bit briefer since we're going to be talking a little bit more about them. So let's see. Is there any... I guess we should start by eliminating a couple, right?
Yeah, let's do process of elimination for sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
I love Writer and the Fighter. It's the podcast with Jake Smith and Dave Golden. David Golden. I always fuck up dude's name. I love that show. I don't know if I can give it most consistent because they'll get off topic sometimes, and they haven't been around the entire year. Which I think probably should count for something in this, like the amount of shows that come out and all that. So as much as I like that one, I think we can probably pull that one.
So I will say one that, and I like Gorgeous George, and I like some of the other recurring guys that they have on there.
Yeah, Dan
but
Tom.
There are times when they go off on a tangent of gambling or just
or
some
soccer
other stuff.
or football.
Yeah, NFL.
Yeah.
So
also, they've taken a couple weeks off this year, which is pretty unlike them. And yeah, there's sometimes where it's just George talking about his mom and hanging out with her for an hour.
The last time I listened to him, it was him. They talk about how he's good at arguing with trolls on Twitter. I don't know and I was I went on his Twitter and looked what the fuck's he talking about? I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And he's not great at it. I like the dude a lot. He's also been very nice to me a bunch of times on Twitter and on the UG and stuff back in the day. But I could definitely see pulling that one, especially since some of those episodes, even when they are talking about MMA, is it can be pretty fucking hit or miss as to whether they're just blowing Valentina the entire episode or not. Right. One cool thing though that I should mention is MMA Junkie did just recently move to recording at night. So that'll be interesting to see how that affects the show going forward.
Let's see.
We can probably... as much as I like Protect Your Neck with Dan Tom, consistency is not that show's strong point. He's had a couple weeks off, especially in the beginning of the year. It was kind of off and on. So I think we can pull that. I really do like his episodes that he does when he is consistent and putting out content. But I think for this category, it's probably not going to make the top 3.
I agree. Let's see. I want to... I like... Fuck, I'm trying to figure a way to say this. I like Submission Radio a lot. I like Casper and Dennis, what they do. They are consistent in the content they put out. Mm-hmm. But they're not consistent in the basis that they don't really have... I don't think they have an episode weekly.
No,
not that they need to. That's not part of consistency. But
yeah, they seem like they've mostly switched to covering the bigger cards and then,
yeah, and that's why I'm kind of leaving them off top 3. They do usually always have pretty good guests, and I think they're great as far as the questions they ask, and they're mostly objective.
Yeah.
At least from what I can recall. I'll always listen to them. But
I think that's a good call. Oh, this is starting to get tough. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Joe Rogan can't be on this list because it's so guest dependent that who fucking knows, man.
Yeah.
And some of the JRE MMA show episodes aren't the last one he did was with Kelly Pavlik, the boxer. It's not an MMA.
Yeah,
guest.
Was the Golden Snitch technically an MMA show or no?
Oh, you are right. That was last year. Yeah, no, you're right. So just on that alone, he gets pulled off this. Because that fucking catastrophe. If we had a worst episode, that might be up there.
I like Joe Rogan a lot, but Michael Bisping's right. I remember when Bisping had an episode, he said, "Hey, motherfucker, you need to stop being on the fence. What are your thoughts on this?"
Yeah.
Because I feel like Rogan just loves John Jones too much as a fighter that he doesn't want to have any other opinion. He doesn't want it. It's going to ruin the way he watches fights as far as John Jones goes.
Well, and he likes,
maybe if he's a little honest.
and he likes John as a person too. Like he's known John for a
Yeah.
long time and gotten high with him and shit like that. Like Ari and Joe talked about smoking weed with John way back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh man, so we got 6 left.
I say.
I'm wondering if Luke Thomas can be on this with the MMA Hour because he didn't have that show the entire year.
Yeah.
And again, it can be kind of guest dependent. I like
the
that
formatting's fantastic.
and
as far as what he did with the show.
And I really think he's improved that show by a big margin by being on it. But I think we have to probably pull him at least for this category.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to our top 5 that we need to narrow down in no particular order. We have the MMA Roadshow, Heavy Hands, Co-Main Event Podcast, MMA Vivisection, and Fights Gone By.
I feel like it'd be a little unfair to have both Heavy Hands and Vivisection on.
Well,
maybe not.
I mean, it's just Connor is the single factor on that. If it was Heavy Hands and MMA Depressus or Vivisection and MMA Depressus, I would say that one we could. Although there is some crossover there. So if you were to go with one of them, which one would you go with if you were to go with one? Because it's hard.
I think I'd stick with Heavy Hands.
For most consistent?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the reason I'd go with that as well is because the consistency is kind of... Vivisection is so dependent on what the card looks like to be significant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, I could go with that. So then we got left MMA Roadshow, Heavy Hands, CME, and Fights Gone By. So we need to get rid of one to get to our top 3.
I guess I could say Fights Gone By because he's consistent in that he has content every week. I enjoy hearing him more than, but everything he talks about, I kind of feel like you can get the gist of the fights based on his written articles,
right?
Which is fine. And sometimes he goes off. He didn't really. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's good that he does both.
Right. I would say I think you're right. I think that's the one that stands out to me as the one we can probably lose for this category anyway, because since he focuses in on just a couple aspects in each episode or a couple topics, if you're not interested in the topic, it can not be as consistent as, like, say, the other 3, which I think generally cover stuff pretty well every week. And even if you don't like one segment or one portion of the other shows, I think generally you'll find at least one segment that you do like. So, all right, well then we got our top 3 episodes. Now we just have to come up with a winner between the MMA Roadshow, Heavy Hands, and the Co-Main Event Podcast, and this is gonna be fucking difficult. Man. So, all right, I guess we should talk about what we like. Why each of them are a credit to this category. MMA Roadshow, I'll start with just John Morgan is the dude who is almost always on location. He's talking about fight week relevant stuff. He is always doing an episode, maybe 2 a week if he can get a second one in. He's always on location. He always has relevant interviews. He's drinking during them. They're generally fun to listen to. Man. So I like.
Should I just give you my?
Yeah.
I have my win. My winner is that one.
Really?
It was MMA Roadshow. Because what you were kind of breaking down, I like. What stands out to me is the fact you said he's always on location. He's kind of fitting the. Not that you need to fit the bill as like an MMA journalist, because not everyone who does an MMA podcast is an MMA journalist. That's unfair.
And it's not like he's the one asking hard hitting questions a lot of times either.
But that's just what I like about him the most. He's there all the time. He's there at the weigh-ins. He's asking just questions that are more conversational, kind of instead of, in a sense, not loaded, but
yeah. No, I mean he mostly covers fairly safe questions. He's not out there fucking roasting Dana or anybody. Especially since he gets a lot of scoops from Dana. I mean, him and Ioli were the two people that were called in by Dana for the John Jones thing.
That's right.
Yeah, the only thing... Oh, Andy has the Ballast Point references, too, which is always a plus. Andy's drinking during most episodes. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to unseat that. We should talk briefly about Heavy Hands and Co-Main. Heavy Hands, what they have going for it is, especially since Phil McKenzie took over, it has really gotten, like, it's just funny as hell. They're just very funny. And Phil McKenzie's snark level is, like, just British and dry enough to not come off as a dick, but be very funny.
Yeah, he's a good... him and Connor have decent chemistry.
Yeah.
I mean, they play well off of each other. So it's... while Pat Wyman was a fun addition with the original lineup, I do like Phil McKenzie a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they're just very
British
different.
Humor, the dry humor definitely does add to it.
Yeah, and they're just very different styles of shows between the two. So actually, you know what? Maybe that's another reason why I would say maybe not most consistent, just because with the change of hosts halfway through this year, I think that maybe that makes it less consistent than MMA Roadshow. Just because it's kind of, it's a tale of two different shows, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, they're similar formats, and they're definitely similar, but they definitely have a very different feel to them. All right, and then, so I think we definitely would say, for consistency, we got to go Roadshow over Heavy Hands. Co-Main, like... I feel like if we did, did we do this award last year? I figure it would have gone to Co-Main probably, right?
I think we gave it to Co-Main last year.
Let me look. So,
because I think we broke down the stats.
I mean, we did do some stats stuff last year. But I know that we also did like our own picks aside from the stats. So, why don't you talk about Co-Main real quick while I pull that up and see if I can find it.
So Co-Main event is always they're always consistent because Ben and Chad, we don't need to say the great chemistry that those two have.
Yeah, they're
together.
just very funny, and they're just, you could tell they are like, they hang out at barbecues with their wives around and shit.
Yeah, they bust each other's balls. The way their segments kind of intertwine. It's all, the flow is it just flows well. It all flows very, very nicely together. It's a nicely organized podcast, really. I mean, I don't know if that just get credit to whoever edits the show or what have you, but you kind of know what you're going to get when you listen to their podcast.
I don't think they edit much. Since they've been live streaming them on their Patreon, and it's pretty much just as it is. Like, at the end of each segment, Chad listens back to it to make sure that the recording was fine, and then they just move on, which is pretty impressive because they have a pretty tight back and forth repertoire that it's impressive to see when they do it live. Looks like last year you had for your most consistent promotional malpractice, and I had Co-Main.
Okay.
Yeah, this could really be a coin flip, I think, for CME, between CME and Roadshow. I think I just have to go Roadshow for talking about the events more often, and for having, like, not only like on location segments. Him and Cold Coffee will also be talking about like news and stuff. And I just think more on a more consistent week-to-week basis, I think I would have to go Roadshow. You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So then our winner for most consistent MMA podcast in 2018 is the MMA Roadshow, with runners-up Co-Main Event and Heavy Hands. Which, yeah, I really like that top three. Cool. So we will go ahead and jump into our next category. Up next, we have the best previews / recaps. I believe we had these categories split last year, but I want to just combine them since there's some overlap in some of these shows, and it's kind of a nebulous kind of category anyway. So I figured we would combine them and kind of flesh it out a little bit more. So the nominees we have are the MMA Vivisection, Between Rounds Roundtable, Protect Your Neck Podcast, Heavy Hands, Beat Down After the Bell, MMA by the Numbers, MMA Ratings, Care Don't Care, The MMA Nerd, Sixth Round, and Fights Gone By. Is there anything that we need to add to that, or you think that's probably...
I think that's good.
I guess we could add the MMA Hour, since Luke Thomas does do the Monday Morning Analyst. But I think we can also then subsequently cut the MMA Hour because it's such a small segment of that show.
Yeah, that's true.
So, here, I will add the MMA Hour to the section we are cutting. And it's obviously the Luke Thomas version of the MMA Hour, because Ariel does zero analysis and just TMZs his way through everything. Anyway, we might get to him later. So, is there anybody that you want to start off by chopping on this one? And we should clarify, just the fact that we nominated you means that we thought you were a nominee for this category and could have won it. So by cutting you, we're not saying your previews are bad or that we dislike them. We're obviously just saying, or that any category is bad or we dislike it. We're just trying to narrow this down into some kind of list.
I mean, to be fair, some of these on here are ones that you've listened to way more than I have.
Yeah,
Like,
a handful of them.
So
you know what? Sixth Round is actually the one I was going to say that we can probably cut, just because it's been a little bit more consistent lately, but it's been kind of off and on. Also, it's a rotating gang of guests with Zane Simon generally, so you don't really know what you're going to get, or like it's a very different show depending on who Zane's with for that. So I could see cutting it just because as much as I like it, I like other recap shows or preview shows a little bit more.
I agree.
Let's see. I think we can cut MMA Ratings.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So MMA Ratings is the one with Schwan Hume, Black Jordan Breen, and his co-host, who I always forget the name of. I apologize. But it's a really good show. It's just not, they don't do enough of them, I think, to make it on the list, to be honest. Because they normally cover some of the bigger cards from what I've seen. And if they had a more regular output weekly, I think they could definitely be a contender, because Schwann's breakdowns are fucking fantastic. Dude is one of the best at tape study that I've heard, especially when talking about it and kind of explaining his thoughts on it. But just because they're not ultra consistent, I think we can probably let that one go. Let's see. I think we can probably let the MMA Nerd go. I really like Ashley. I think she's hilarious, and I think her show is great. I honestly haven't listened to enough of it in 2018. And so I think that I've listened to way more of these other shows do breakdowns, so I would feel weird putting hers on here in comparison to some of these ones I've been listening to for the entire year, and have a really well-rounded content. But not that the MMA Nerd stuff is bad. I really like hers. I think I can probably cut MMA by the Numbers for the same reason. I just recently came across that show, and it's really good. Dude does breakdowns, like stat breakdowns of all the cards. But just because I haven't heard enough of it throughout the year, I think we can probably cut that
before as well. And it's a fun listen.
I really like it.
Stats go.
Yeah, but it's all super stats heavy. And again, I just didn't listen to enough of it.
I feel like that guy would be a big baseball stats junkie too.
I'm sure, yeah. If he likes baseball, which I sure is fucked up. This is where it starts getting difficult. This is where we have to start weighing. Like, oh man, I think we have to pull Heavy Hands off this.
Yeah.
I don't think they do enough. While their technical breakdowns are dope as hell and they're very good, that isn't, like, by definition really a preview or a recap show. They just kind of do that in segments. So I think we can pull that. Does that mean we also pull Fights Gone By because it's kind of the same?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you kind of have to.
Again, really good breakdowns from Jack Slack, especially technique stuff. But I think just because these other shows are strictly like focus in depth on the entire card, I think we have to do that. Okay, so Beatdown After the Bell and the Between Rounds Roundtable are both TJ DeSantis products with the basically revolving Between Rounds cast. Oh, I think I would have to go. I think having both on here isn't fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because, and as much as I like Beatdown After the Bell, and Beatdown After the Bell is fun as hell, I don't know that I can put it on here. Number one, for consistency, and because you don't know who's going to be guessing with TJ, and because, like, some of those recap shows, depending on how the night goes, just end up becoming fucking depressing. Not because it's bad or anything, just because, like, you sit through a fucking slog of a Fox card that takes forever, and then they're doing 2 hours of radio, and everybody listening is worn out, and I think there's another category, too, where we can talk more about that show that I think it better fits, so... I'll go ahead and cut that one. So we have 4 here. We have the MMA Vivisection, Between Rounds Roundtable, Protect Your Neck, and Care Don't Care.
I like Care Don't Care a lot. I know,
but they don't care enough for it to be on this list.
It's just not. Yeah. If you're looking for a preview,
yeah,
they're not going to break down the fight. It's more of a PR standpoint, which is fine.
Well, and it's like not even just PR. It's just like. It's a fight fan look at it.
Should you be interested in this
fight? Is it worth not getting a beer during this fight is basically.
Yeah. How much money is this card really worth? How much would you pay for this pay-per-view?
Right. It's more of a fan interest breakdown than it is an actual fight breakdown.
And that's what I like about it a lot.
Me too.
I like Eugene S. Thompson's
S. Robinson.
Did I say Thompson?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I didn't know he's related to Steven.
Oh yeah. Stephen Eugene S. Thompson. Eugene S. Robinson, just the way he kind of reacts. It's like if he doesn't care, you know it.
Yep.
He's just like, I just don't give a fuck, and it's like, well, that's how I was feeling too.
Yeah. Yeah, and also Nate not caring enough to even do that show anymore also probably pulls it from this list anyway.
Oh, that's right.
Because now it's all John Nash, I believe.
I think so.
All right, so we got our top 3. It's in no particular order: the MMA Vivisection, Between Rounds Roundtable, and Protect Your Neck. Man, I love TJ DeSantis's Between Rounds Roundtable shows, but the thing, like, it really is guest dependent. It's guest dependent, and I mean, I guess all these are card dependent. But that one's really guest dependent in the fact that I think if it's not, like, number one, is Jordan Breen going to talk about Vitor Belfort's sister for an hour and a half during it? Or,
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, which legit will happen if you at all bring up Vitor's sister around Jordan Breen, which, by the way, he's been talking about on Twitter all week, too. I fucking love Jordan. He's the best. But I think it's too guest dependent to make it on here. Plus, they mostly only do it for bigger shows. So like either I think it was Fox cards and pay-per-views. So I think that alone kind of means we can't have it. I think between Dan Tom and Vivisection, they cover like so much depth on the card, and they do it so consistently that I think we would have to do those. And as I say that, I'm now realizing Protecting Neck can't win either for the same reason, huh?
Yeah.
Just because I love Protecting Neck. If Dan Tom did it every single week this year, or majority of weeks this year, I would say it could seriously take Vivisection. But the MMA Vivisection is probably the most consistent preview show, just in that they do it every single goddamn time, and they are actually focused on the fights. They do tape study. They're not talking about skateboarding in Japan or in China. Yeah, I think we have to give this a Vivisection, huh?
I would. It's a solid choice.
All right. So for the best preview / recap MMA podcast of 2018, we have the MMA Vivisection with Runners Up, Protect Your Neck, and the Between Rounds Roundtable.
This next one, I'll let you take it away because, of course, I always tell myself, maybe I lie to myself, or that I will do something like this. I will support this, I guess I should say.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You'll be a patron of it?
Yeah. Haven't done it yet.
So this is basically, I wanted to do an award for the best Patreon for an MMA podcast because since there's an actual barrier to entry on these, I just wanted to shout them out since I'm subscribed. So I only went with ones I'm subscribed to, obviously. And I mostly just wanted to shout them out because some of these Patreons are doing fantastic content. And it's hard to know about it unless you're kind of pay the toll to understand it. So let's see. Our nominees for Best Patreon for an MMA podcast in 2018, we have Between Rounds with TJ DeSantis, Severe MMA with Sean Sheehan, the Co-Main Event podcast with Ben Folks and Chad Dundas, Heavy Hands with Connor Rebush and Phil McKenzie and Pat Wyman for the first half of the year, and Punch Drunk Sports with Jason Tebow, Ari Shafir, and Sam Tripoli. And Fight Nanny, I guess, if you want to count that chick that hooked up with Nick Diaz. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. We can cut Punch Drunk Sports. I love Punch Drunk Sports, but they don't talk about MMA nearly enough to be on this list.
I mean, yeah, it's called Punch Drunk Sports.
Well, and they're like much bigger. They're pretty fucking casual when it comes to MMA. So I think we can definitely cut them on that. It's still a very good Patreon. If you want to watch them say and do very fucked up things. Like I think Ari got his asshole bleached, and I'm pretty sure someone inserted hot dogs in their ass on one of their episodes. Actually, I think all three of them inserted frozen hot dogs for losing a bet. So there's some stuff going on it, but not MMA related.
Bets with them or against them.
Yeah, stay away from the bag of bets is all I'm saying.
None that I would agree to regardless, but still.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why you don't do the bag of bets with them. Otherwise, you end up having to do a stream while wearing a dildo, like a forehead strap dildo, while watching gay porn. Shouts out to Jason Tebow. That's a real thing. You can go look up that video.
I think I'll pass. But...
Probably smart.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough about Punch Drunk Sports. It's hilarious, but it's not MMA related. I think we need to cut Heavy Hands just because of out of the four here, out of Between Rounds, Severe, Co-Main, and Heavy Hands by far puts out the least amount of content. I really like it, but it's mostly just addendums to some of their shows where they talk about some of the prelim stuff. They've also done some looks in on like listener questions, and they've done some stuff with like a certain in-depth topic that they'll go into, but it's been pretty infrequent, and especially with Pat Wyman switching over to Phil McKenzie as host. I don't know. I think it doesn't quite hang with Between Rounds, Severe, and CME. So here's actually, I kind of like the order we have it in right now, to be honest. So yeah, our top three, obviously, for Best Patreon are Between Rounds, Severe MMA, and Co-Main Event. Co-Main Event podcast Patreon has been very good. They just started it this year. I think the second half of the year or so. Yeah, I think it was June or July. They did that hilarious Pride drinking game. And if they would have gotten the second Pride or the Affliction Day of Reckoning drinking game in 2018, it would have been a serious nominee. But as of now, I mean, they're giving you a lot for what they're for the tiers. I think it's like $3 or $5, something like that. You get a koozie, and they are also they're doing their regular show streaming it on video every week. They are also putting out a bonus episode every Friday called the CME Power Hour, where they do like basically a follow-up show. They've done some weigh-in shows where Ben brings over donuts, or actually no, sorry, Chad brings over either donuts or gas station food to Ben's house, and they do that. They also this year did the movie commentary for that Gina Carano movie.
Yeah, I remember
which was real fucking goofy.
Watching them watch that.
Yeah,
that was tough.
It's real goofy. So, I mean, they definitely have stepped their game up with that stuff, and I'm excited to see what they bring next year. But I think compared to the amount of content and what Severe MMA and Between Rounds put out, I think we would probably have to go with the other two. So, Severe MMA, Sean Sheehan has been doing fucking work on that Patreon. Again, I think it's the price of a pint, as Sean Sheehan would say. Each month, and he does a lot of stuff. He does the rewatch, which is he goes back before cards and he'll watch either watch a matchup that is, if it's a rematch, he'll obviously watch the first fight, or he'll watch style specific fights that he thinks might play in, and he kind of watches it live and talks to listeners through what he's thinking, which is really interesting. He also did a lot of really good interviews, especially in the lead up to the Habib Connor fight at 229. He just has been putting out a shitload of content. You also get episodes early if you're subscribed to that Patreon. He also does listener questions and stuff like that, where I'll do an entire 10-15 minute episode on a question that you have. He's putting out really good content. I just don't think anybody can fuck with the amount and the quality of content TJ Santos is putting out in Between Rounds.
Yeah, no, the guy's a great producer. You can tell kind of just by some of the, besides his whole opening, this is a TJ DeSantis production. Any show I kind of felt like that I listened to this year that was aided by him. Kind of you can tell just by the way it's edited, by the way everything's kind of organized. I like that.
Yeah,
so,
and I
definitely bust his ass when it comes to that.
Well, and I think just for what you're getting for your money with this is ridiculous at this point. Here we go. Here is a list of the shows. So he has a couple different tiers. He has a casual tier, a hardcore tier, and a casual keyboard warrior and a hardcore tier. Essentially, it matters when you get the episodes, whether you get them day one or whether you get them a little bit later on. But here is a list of the shows that are on just with that $5 to $10 that you're gonna give TJ a month. Here's the shows he does: Beatdown with TJ DeSantis and Dean Thomas, and these are mostly 90% of these are weekly. Behind the Paywall with TJ DeSantis and Jeff Sherwood. The Outsiders with Josh Gross and Jeff Sherwood. Gross Point Blank, which Josh has been doing occasionally. The Daily Wrap with Rob Tatum, which is a daily news show. Collapsed MMA, which is TJ DeSantis and Jordan Breen looking back at old cards. Every once in a while, there will be special interviews with Jack Encarnacio, kind of similar to the old Sherdog Rewinds. That also includes the Between Rounds Roundtable shows, breaking down Fox cards and pay-per-views. Also includes Beatdown After the Bell for Fox cards and pay-per-views. All of those shows are dope as hell. And for, $5-10 a month, that is an insane amount of content.
It is. That's a lot.
And they're all really good shows hosted by, dudes who have been around for more than a decade in the sport. And it's just it's fantastic. He hands down, this category was made for TJ to win it, essentially, because it's fucking ridiculous the amount of content he's putting out. Cool. So that means that our best Patreon for an MMA podcast in 2018 is the Between Rounds Patreon, followed by Severe MMA and the Co-Main Event Podcast. We will have we'll have links for everything in the description on this, so if you look at that, you can always hit us up at TSOVPod on Twitter as well, and we'll point you in the right direction. Cool, man. Let's see. You want to keep on moving on? All right, so up next we have most underrated MMA podcasts of 2018. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I basically just wanted to shout out a podcast that I think people are sleeping on as a whole. So our nominees are, and then Chris, I'll let you start talking on this one because I feel like I've been rambling all over the Patreon one. So the most underrated nominees are Collapsed MMA, Show Money, If I Did It, The Outsiders, MMA Depressed Us, Punch Kick Chill, Eugene S. Ramasan Showstomper, and the Half Cast Podcast.
So let's go with, let's see. All of these are solid choices, of course.
Is there anything that you think we need to add?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good on adding stuff, but of course, I mean, if you guys think we fucked up and totally forgot one, definitely send us a tweet, TSOV Pod on Twitter, and we will discuss it on next week's show.
Let's start breaking this down here. Some of these I didn't listen to a lot. I know I listened to Collapse a couple times, but off the top of my head, I can't really. Some of these you might have to explain.
For sure. Is there any ones that stand out as ones you would cut off the top?
Off the top of my head, Show Money I like, but basically that's just all about the logistics of the UFC, right? Was that one show?
That's the show that it's essentially all focused on, or at least for the last year, it's been focused on the lawsuit for Zuffa, the antitrust lawsuit.
That's right.
That's the one with John Nash and Paul Gift and Jason.
Yeah, they break down the legal procedures.
Yeah. And it's really good. It doesn't come out very often, though, because, of course, since it's mostly focused around the antitrust stuff, they just do an episode when there's new news. I mean, they also talk about stuff like the sketchy One Championship financing stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'd probably see you can maybe cut that.
Yeah, we could cut that. I think just off of the fact that they don't put out as many episodes as a lot of these other ones.
I can't really speak on behalf of really Eugene S. Robinson's Showstomper. I don't have an opinion on that because I don't think I've ever listened to a Showstopper. I usually just listen to If I Did It or Care Don't Care.
Okay,
when it comes to Eugene,
I think we can pull Showstomper because, again, actually for Showstomper, it's Eugene talking about crazy shit as a metaphor for a current topic in MMA. So, like, he'll go on a crazy discussion about, like, Hitler and the Nazis, as he's wont to do.
Fascism,
yeah, a lot of fascism talk, or like weird stories from the 80s of, like, getting into fights. Or
so I felt like it just spitballing here. So if he could liken the feud or whatever you want to call it that TJ Dillashaw formerly had with Team Alpha Male, he could liken that to the Russian Civil War of the 1919, something like that.
That's some more Pat Wyman type shit, really.
Okay.
Honestly, his is way more like nothing is nearly that direct a reference.
Okay.
Like, he will go on a 30 to 45 minute diatribe about a weird story of something that happened to him one time that he'll eventually tie back into Colby Croppington or John Jones or whoever. Yeah, as he likes to say. So as much as I like that show, and it is very underrated, I don't know that it fits in an MMA podcast underrated kind of category.
Yeah. Excuse me. God damn. I can see that.
Half-Cast Podcast, I think we can probably cut just because they haven't put out a ton of episodes this year. At least not the second half.
And I like them a lot for the production that they have.
Yeah.
As far as the couple episodes that I saw. I like how they even had lavalier mics on. Even they're like, hey, we're going to cook some stuff now.
Yeah.
And they're smart enough to have... I like how they were doing that. I was actually very impressed. So that's definitely worth the mention. Looking at this,
I'm also realizing we don't have Does Frenemies need to be on this list?
I'd put it on here.
But does it hang with any of these now that I've added it on here? So Frenemies, if you guys don't know, is the show by... I spelled that terribly. It's the show by Israel Adesanya and Dan Hooker.
Yes. Yeah, the two Kiwi buddies from New Zealand, of course. Actually, that's a redundancy there. The two Kiwis. They're real good friends, sparring partners, all that. They just kind of give the Kiwis perspective. It's a fun listen.
Yeah, they give their takes on fights. They talk a little bit of shit.
Yeah. Really, have they done an episode since Hooker had his last fight?
I don't think they have, no.
Yeah, he got handled.
Well,
that was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That fucking Edson Barboza fight. But boy, did I pick that one wrong.
Yeah, I think I had...
I think you had Barboza.
Okay.
I think so. As much as I like Frenemies, now that we've talked about it, I don't know if it hangs with the rest of these. Because while it is underrated, I don't know that it's underrated enough to hang with some of these other ones.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, so we got our top 5. This is where it's going to start getting fucking cutthroat. Collapse MMA, If I Did It, The Outsiders, MMA Depress Us, and Punch Kick Chill. Man, every time I almost have an argument for why we should cut one, I think about it more, and then I think of a counter argument.
I'll let you argue for Collapse and The Outsiders.
So Collapse MMA, man, I think Collapse MMA probably needs to be in the top 3. Just because, well, here, let me start with The Outsiders. The Outsiders is Josh Gross and Jeff Sherwood. I think it's underrated because these are two dudes who have been around the sport a lot. They have a lot of connections with people that they're friendly with, like fighters and all kinds of stuff. Josh Gross has talked openly about the MMA and maybe getting credentialed, maybe not getting credentialed for upcoming cards. They have a very old school take on the sport, and it's really goddamn good. I just don't know if it hangs with the rest of these on being underrated. I mean, it is underrated. I just don't think it's going to be as underrated as some of these other ones. It's really fucking good, though. Like, people, I think it's underrated mostly because people aren't aware that Josh Gross and Jeff Sherwood are doing a podcast. I feel like if people actually knew that, people would not be sleeping on that show.
Just their two names alone.
Yeah, and just the amount of time and experience they have, yeah. So we'll cut that one, but, it's just starting to get tough. Collapse MMA, I mean, I can either make my hill to die on argument for Collapse MMA in the top 3 now, or we can do it after we talk about some of these others, whichever you want.
You do it now, because I don't really have too much. I know I've listened to it before, but not enough to really kind of...
So Collapse MMA is underrated because no one else is doing what they're doing. No one else is as qualified, nor does the deep dive in MMA the way that Collapse MMA is doing it. It's hosted by TJ DeSantis and Jordan Breen. They go back and they're doing multi-hour episodes on old MMA cards, mostly UFC, but not just UFC. Right. Yeah. So this is the one where they've done some of the old UFC cards. They did, what's the crazy ass? It was the K1 USA, K1 Dynamite USA card that had Brock Lesnar on it and all kinds of crazy shit. That horrible DJ.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, so essentially they go through, they pick a card, they do a intro episode about like just kind of where they were at that time, what the landscape of MMA was like, why they picked the card, and just kind of go back and forth about some of the stuff that they remember about it. And then they actually, on the second, which is normally like a 2 or 3 hour episode, and then they'll do a part 2, which is normally at least another 3 hours. where they will just do a deep dive every single fight on the card. They'll go through and watch the card and take notes and basically just do a back and forth. If you guys have ever listened to the Lapsed Fan Wrestling podcast, it's that kind of format. And it's just fucking fantastic. Nobody is as qualified to do that as they are, and they're fucking hilarious. I think it has to be in this top 3 just because it's something special.
And so yeah, I agree. Yeah, Collapse MMA definitely deserves to be in that top 3. I guess we should just kind of decide what's out.
Yeah, so between If I Did It, MMA Depressed Us, and Punch Kick Chill, that's a tough one because they're all doing such different things that is pretty unique. So here, well, I'll mention briefly, If I Did It is a show hosted by Eugene S. Robinson, Kid Nate, or Kid Nate, if you Nate, and Alexi Ald, and they go through and solve the PR kerfuffles of the MMA world, not beyond. Essentially, they go through and act as PR consultants for fucked up things happening in MMA. It's a weird take on a show. Alexi is a lawyer, which always makes it doubly interesting, and Nate's married to a lawyer who shushes him in the background of some of the episodes, which is great.
Very true.
MMA Depressed Us is, of course, the show hosted by Connor Rebush and Phil McKenzie, where they look at old MMA fights that depress them. They generally do a good bad fight, a bad fight, and a fight that should have been better. And they do essentially a Mystery Science Theater 3000 style, like preview, or not preview, but viewing of old fights where they cue you up and you watch along with them. And boy, does some of those fucking episodes go off the rails in very funny ways. And then Punch Kick Chill is the one hosted by Justin Golightly and Jason Navarra, who they go back and they watch old fights, but they just have... Man, it's hard to describe that show. I think I described it as Mystery Science Theater if they gave... oh god, not Cambot. Which one of the Mystery Science Theater, the chick, Trixie? What's her name?
Fuck, is that's the show that's on Adult Swim, right?
No, Mystery Science Theater is the old Comedy Central show where it'd be Joel and the robot and a couple people. I think I described Punch Kick Chill as if Joel gave one of the robots acid, and I can't remember. It was fucked up. It's a fucked up show where weird shit happens.
What is it? For me, when I listen to Punch Kick Chill, it reminds me like if Bill and Ted in their whole movie in their phone booth were on drugs.
Yeah,
crazy.
If they were on a lot of drugs and making super obscure MMA references, while like man, they've just done so much weird shit on that show. Jason
with a hint of Kenny Powers.
Yeah, because Justin's super strong Southern accent. Also, Nick Diaz has guested on the show a bunch of times. Super real, totally not fake Nick Diaz. Actually, both Diaz brothers, if I remember right. Man, they're just so... They go into the time nexus. They both get 2 vetoes, even though no one knows what the vetoes do. They have so many weird bits. Man, I don't know what to cut. Which way are you leaning? I guess
I'd probably cut Depressed because the point is they had good fights. So I don't know. I got fucking bummed out watching the one. I was listening to them when they were looking at Edgar Penn 3. Like, what the fuck?
That's true. You know what? Now that I think about it, underrated. Yeah, that whole Edgar or the whole Penn episode was so goddamn depressing.
Yeah, but they'll say after like Penn Seaver and like another, like what the
fuck? It was bad. So I think you're right. I think we can call that because this is the most underrated MMA podcast, and I feel like that is a show that does not appeal to most people and is probably not underrated by most people. Yeah, because
basically someone could just hear the whole premise of the show and say, why the fuck do I want to watch a shitty fight?
Yeah,
I don't want to be in a shit mood.
Well, and that's
Which is not the point of the show, but
no, but
it's kind of more
it will.
analyzed.
Yeah, it could put you in a fucked up mood though if you're not careful. Although I did realize I haven't listened to it yet, but they did put out an episode just I think this week that I will definitely end up bringing up next week on our show, where they did a bunch of short bad fights, including Mir vs. Duffy, which we were in the building for.
Yep.
So that should be a fun one.
Were a lot, we say this every time we mention there were a lot of good fighters on that card.
Yeah,
in general.
I think we tweeted out about it. It's crazy. Yeah, like Holly Holm, yeah, a bunch of people.
Kevin Lee was on that card. Tony Ferguson was on that card. Yeah, what the fuck?
Jessica Andrade.
Yep. Yeah, wow.
All right, so for most underrated, right now we have in no particular order for our top 3: Collapsed MMA, If I Did It, and Punch Kick Chill. Oh, man. Do you have any feelings on which way you think this should go?
I think I kind of want to go with If I Did It.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Collapse MMA, I feel like kind of has the head start with the way the production is, because you kind of have someone like TJ DeSantis who's so good at his job.
Yeah.
That I don't want to say you can't call underrated because it's still solid, but I like If I Did It because you still get like the Eugene S. Robinson feel to it. Alexi's in there giving his perspective. You get Kid Nate. I kind of like there's three not vastly different, but 3 different points of view, all focusing on the PR kerfuffle. I really like the episode I listened to today where they were discussing the UFC's decision to skip over Colby Crappington, as Eugene S. Robinson calls him, and give the title shot to Marty from Nebraska.
Shouts to Ben Askren.
Kamaru Usman. I just kind of like how everything gels with that show. And while, yes, they get into long rants, that's the point of it, is to kind of put under the microscope or in the lens, was this a bad move for the promotion? Is this a good move for the promotion? How is WME reacting to this? Why are they making? Why it's kind of like if you're whether you're a casual fan or a hardcore fan, and you're really kind of trying to figure out why things are happening, they kind of help break it down and kind of put some perspective on it, which I enjoy.
Man, yeah, that's a good point. I was really gonna try and rally for Collapsed MMA on this one, but I think you might be right. The only thing I would say about Collapsed MMA is no one knows about that show. It feels like like no one talks about it. It's never mentioned anywhere. But they're doing crazy
maybe we can
shit.
Say show you need to listen to right now. Collapsed MMA.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. You know what we'll do If I Did It. I think you're right. Collapsed MMA, I am personally considering like a 1B, but yeah, no, the winner for this category, I think we'll give it to If I Did It. They're doing unique shit, and I think that voice is needed. And it's another show that people don't really talk about. It kind of just gets dismissed as a bloody elbow show. But I think it's one of the more interesting ones they do on there. And just Alexi alone having a voice on that, I feel like really changes the kind of the tenor of that whole show. So yeah, for most underrated, our winner is If I Did It, and with runners up, Collapsed MMA in a close second, and Punch Kick Chill falling not far behind. Cool. All right, so this next category is straight up a reference to Giant Bomb's old Game of the Year awards. This is the best show to drink and get drunk or smoke and get high to. And I love the category. I thought it was fun. And there's a good amount of MMA podcasts that are pretty great to get drunk or real blaze to.
Yeah, so I can't really say I'm too high when I'm listening, because if I get too high, well, I mostly just smoke indica, so I kind of zone out.
That'll happen, yeah.
So as far as me drinking to them,
As you say that, I'm going to go ahead and hit this bowl. Keep going.
I was going to say, if I were to be high and listen to them, it would definitely be Punch Kick Chill, or the Joe Rogan Fight Companion, 100%. Those would be my 2 picks as far as if I was smoking alongside with those guys.
Yeah, I think those are
the same thing.
Those are the easy front runners, so I'm going to move everybody else down and we can talk about it. I should give all the nominees first. Nominees are Punch Kick Chill, Joe Rogan Fight Companion, Phone Booth Fighting, Half Cast Podcast, Beat Down After the Bell, Punch Drunk Sports, Believe You Me, MMA on the Rocks, Collapsed MMA, and MMA Roasted. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, Punch Drunk Sports is again going to get booted for not being enough about MMA, but it's really good. And yeah, I think Punch Kick Chill and JRE Fight Companion have to be in our top 2 or our top 3.
If I were to round up the top 3 right now,
yep,
I would add Believe You Me, based on their like self-deprecating humor, and they kind of don't I don't say don't give a shit, but I know Lewis is humorously dark as he can get. I kind of like how Bisbing just kind of plays off on it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And they have been known to drink a beer or two during their show.
Yeah, like I just listened to an episode this week, and what did he say? Oh, it was about Pollyanna marijuana. Shouts out to her beating the fuck out of a mugger or a robber. And what did Lewis say? He said, he's like, "Oh, shame on you, Mr. Mugger. You got beat up by a woman." And they Michael just can't help but starts cracking up. As fucked up as that is, that statement. I just thought that's why I kind of like what Lewis kind of brings for Michael, because Michael can be all serious. Lewis will say one really fucked up thing, and it just kind of goes off the rails.
I think that's a good point. Oh man, well, so I think ones we can cut. MMA Roasted, I think Adam is too sober and too anxious and fucking Ween Dog or whoever, that dude with the gravelly voice that yells a lot. I think they're like, as fun as that show is, if you are 4 beers deep, that show becomes unlistenable real quick. And then I'll also go ahead and cut Beat Down After the Bell and Collapse MMA. Those are more references for how trash Jordan Breen has gone on a couple of those episodes. So I just wanted to shout those out. So then with the 4 left, there's Phone Booth Fighting with Richard and Frank Mir, Dick Hunter and Frank Mir. I think we can cut that one. I put it on here because a lot of times, well, first off, they've done some episodes with Doug Stanhope, so that automatically will nominate you for this category by default. They've also done some stuff 100%. Where they're drinking beers, or where Frank's drinking beers, or where they're smoking cigars, stuff like that. I think we can probably cut that, though. Just because I don't think Richard Hunter doesn't smoke or drink, so I think that by default that has to get cut. So then we have the other 3 we have left is the Half Cast Podcast, Believe You Me, and MMA on the Rocks. I think Half Cast Podcast we can probably cut as well. That's the show with Tyson Pedro and Tai Tuivasa.
Yep.
I think we can cut that mostly because they haven't put out a ton of content, and their audio is rough enough that if you are a little hammered or ultra baked, that audio is going to start grating on you pretty bad.
I think so as well.
So it comes down to Believe You Me and MMA on the Rocks. I really like MMA on the Rocks with Bill Welker and Jeff the Animal Wilson. That's a show I really, really enjoy. Bill has a fantastic taste in beer and whiskey, specifically. I mean, a bunch of other booze as well, but his taste in beer and whiskey is fucking dope. He's also in Florida near Cigar City, and has given me some recommendations on beers and stuff. And they're always drinking a beer during that show. Whether a lot of times it'll just be like a craft beer, or they'll be sipping on like a whiskey or stuff like that. Man. So really this comes down to, well, you know what? The name of the category is Best Show to Drink and Get Drunk or Smoke and Get High to. And while it's very nice and relaxing drinking with MMA on the Rocks as you listen to it, I think Believe You Me probably is the third. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think just because Believe You Me, it's a fucking goddamn carnival shit show every time, where like everything's falling apart and Lewis is threatening to fire really everybody. Yeah. Lewis is saying horrible things.
They're shitting on Harrington.
Yep. Bisbing is acting like he's above it all, even though he's 100% playing into it. They keep trying to get Shannon to pull her tits out.
Yeah.
I think that has to be the third. And Punch Kick Chill wins this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no. It's the most weed, like it's the most weed show, or the most drug show that you can have without actually being on drugs during it. Not that I don't think Justin is high during half those, because I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah, just like Uriah Faber said he simulated Cruz's death, these guys simulate your high.
Yeah.
You're not already high.
It is even if you're sober, you're going to be in a weird headspace after you listen to it. It's fantastic. So congratulations to Punch Kick Chill for winning our best show to drink and get drunk or smoke and get high to in 2018. Runners up, Believe You Me, and the Joe Rogan Fight Companion, which I guess we didn't talk about JRE, but I don't think it can win just off the fact that fucking if I have to hear Brian Callen and Eddie Bravo anymore.
Maybe you could. It's the JRE's a good show to drink wine along with, and maybe have a cheese board.
I mean, yes, if you want to get really mad about Eddie talking about how you probably get your information from the library.
Good point.
Cool. Let's go ahead and get into our next category. This is the best in quotation marks, or not quotation, in parentheses, active fighter guest. So these are either guests that on podcasts that are either not fighters or no longer active fighters. And so for our nominees, we have Jordan Breen, Jimmy Smith, Eddie Bravo, I should say his real name, Dan Hardy, Robin Black, John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, Zane Simon, Joey Diaz, Ari Shafir, Big John McCarthy, Doug Stanhope, Boss Rutan, Luke Thomas, Fernando Praches, John Jones, the real John Jones, not the drug addict who's in the UFC.
Not the steroid cheat, or as Mark Hunt would say, happy fucking new steroid year.
That's right. Uncle Hinach Larange, Dean Thomas, Michael Bisping, Stephen the Warman Wright, Ant Walker from Sherdog, Brendan Schaub, Schwan Humes, a.k.a. Black Jordan Breen, Mike Russell, and David Bixenspan.
So
I'm going to go ahead and say we can go ahead and cut Doug Stanhope right off top. I just wanted to include Doug Stanhope because his like couple episodes that he did with Richard Hunter and Frank Mir were great.
So
we just need to start chopping people off this list because there's a ton.
I love Joey Diaz, but sometimes it grosses me out when that dude's, I don't know, that dude's
talking about Buffalo's dog.
It's just he's making
Mackenzie Dern's ass after she marks out,
that
bro.
Shit's funny, but it's when he makes like the guttural sounds where he's coughing, like holy fuck.
Oh yeah,
if he's on like, dude, I don't want to.
He sounds like Arthur in Red Dead.
Yeah, he's just like, like, oh god, dude, like, what are you gonna do? Am I hear you fucking rip ass next? Like, holy shit! Like, I love Joey Diaz, he's funny, but dude, it kind of grosses me out sometimes. Like,
I'm with you. I think we can also on a similar note cut Edgy Bra. I like Edgy Bra. Eddie Bravo's great, but generally he's the best on shows talking about combat jiu-jitsu, or as a guest talking about combat jiu-jitsu. His MMA stuff generally gets off the rails pretty quick. So
I think we should get rid of Brandon Schwab.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. He's been all right on some stuff, but
but sometimes he just wants to say some shit.
Yeah, and also if I have to hear that dude butcher any more weird like phrases that he just will fuck up all kinds of ways, like
sayings, or
just like that dude butchers all of the sayings.
So he's literally Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, like Gorilla See, Gorilla Do. Worst case Ontario.
Yeah,
like
100%.
All waters under the fridge, or just like, oh god.
Except way worse though, because he'll combine like 3 different ones, and to which none of it makes sense.
It's a catch-23, clearly.
Exactly. That's exactly the kind of shit it is. Oh god. Man, he had a couple of them in his last one. I forget. I think it was on his own show. Ari Shafir we can cut. I like Ari. He just hasn't been on enough stuff. I think all he was on was Filtered and Jerry, maybe. What do you think about cutting Boss Rutan?
I think we could do that. I like Boss a lot. I always will listen to an episode he's on.
I do too. I just feel like at this point, most of the times when he's on an MMA show, he's either talking about CBD or cannabis, or he's talking about that karate combat show, or the bare knuckle boxing show, which is a shit show.
Oh yeah, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, still nobody's been paid for it.
Oh, wow, that's right. What the hell?
Yeah.
We can get rid of Jimmy Smith. I like Jimmy Smith. I think he did a good job when he was with the UFC.
I do too, and I really like him, especially on Submission Radio and stuff, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to hang.
I wonder where he's going next since he's not returning to the UFC.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a bummer. I really want to. I've tried to talk Jimmy into starting a podcast a couple times on Twitter, and he's like thought about it, but I don't know if he's ever actually going to do it. I think we can cut Robin Black.
I think so.
I like Robin Black, despite him saying crazy shit a lot of times.
Yeah.
And being kind of manic and all over the place, but I like that dude. I think he's entertaining, and he like even Brendan Schaub has good takes every once in a while, and I would say Robin Black has far better takes more often than Brendan Schaub does. So I think the criticism of him, while it is warranted in some cases, like the fucking MMA angle stuff with Conor McGregor, I do think that he overall probably isn't. He doesn't hang with some of the quality of guests on here. Man, we still have to keep chopping these down. Did we get rid of Big John, or are we keeping Big John?
I think we can get rid of him. I already kind of hear him on when I watch Bellator, and that's what I like. I mean, I like him as a guest.
Yeah, I do too. He hasn't been on a ton of stuff though.
Ones that I can't really give an opinion on, to be honest. Bixen, what is it?
David Bixenspan?
Can't really give an opinion on him.
I like David Bixenspan. I think we can cut him also on this list just because he hasn't been... He is great, but my favorite shit he does is when he's with Jordan Breen on on roundtables or stuff like that. So I think we can probably cut him. I can't really
give an opinion on Fernanda Proches.
Fernanda, I'm gonna fucking cape up for Fernanda to be on this list pretty fucking hard. She has been fantastic on the handful of episodes she's been on. She's been on MMA Roadshow a handful of times. Really funny, really well, does a lot of research, well informed. She also was the person who broke the news about Polyana Viana and all that.
That's right.
So I'm not ready to cut her yet. We can have that discussion when we get to it, but
no, yeah, that's very good reasoning. I dig it. Let's see. So the ones that stick out to me that I want to keep, I guess I should say, Hanach or Mr. Orange, whatever his name is.
Right.
He's always. I think he's funny regardless of what show he's on. I think we should keep him.
Okay.
If that's cool with you. If not, it's not a big deal. Let's see. What else is there? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I love Ant Walker, what he does with Kendrick when they do their show, Slip and Dip.
Ant Walker's not on. So he's guested on Slip and Dip. Though. No, you're right. He guested on it. You're thinking of
who the fuck? I keep confusing him.
Matt.
Oh, it's Matt. Matt and Kendrick, right? Not Ant. God damn it.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
But Ant's been on that show a couple times, so that's why you're. Actually, he was just on this week, I think. So that's probably why you're thinking about that. Yeah, I think we can probably cut Ant Walker on this one. I really like him. I think he's really good. I just don't. I don't know if he was on enough. Yeah, I just don't know if he's gonna hang around the top, like towards the top of this. Man, this is where it starts to get really fucking tough.
I definitely think we should hang on to Dan Hardy.
Really?
Well, I'm used to hearing him more, I guess, on BBC MMA.
Right, but that's his own show, so not technically a guest.
That's what I mean. Yeah, maybe not. You could probably get rid of him because I can't really remember the last time I heard him as a guest.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like he guests on stuff like I think he's been on Unfiltered a couple times. He's been on some shows, but I think I mostly hear him as a host more than as a guest. Man, This is starting to get really tough.
Yeah.
I think we can cut Stephen Wright. I fucking love Stephen Wright. His podcast, the Kickfighting Show, is really good. But he wasn't on enough stuff, I think, to have him be in the top of this list. Oh man, this is starting to get hard.
Yeah.
What has Biz been guested on?
Fuck.
I think he was on Rogan.
He was on Rogan. I remember that.
He was on Unfiltered, I believe.
He's been on Unfiltered a couple of times, but other than that, I can't really pinpoint.
Yeah, it seems like he hasn't since he does so much Fox stuff, he doesn't do a ton of.
This should kind of come down to more frequent these people who frequent
frequency and then quality of appearances.
Yeah.
I guess in that same token, I can probably cut Schwan Humes. I really like Schwan Humes a lot. The quality at which his guest spots are could hang, but he just doesn't guest on a ton of stuff. He mostly is on his own show, aside from a couple spots here and there. So we'll go ahead and cut Black Jordan Breen on this list. Man, this is where it really starts getting tough. I think on the light of the last one, I think we can cut real Jordan Breen. I would, if this was my list, I would put Jordan Breen on there just because I like the way he breaks shows. He's one of these people that when he goes on a show, 100% breaks their format because he'll just go on crazy tangents. Kind of in the same way Eugene S. Robinson sort of does, but in a more like windy, crazy tying things together and dropping hella references. But oh man, yeah, I just think compared to some of these other ones, it's gonna be tough. Oh, this is getting difficult.
Dean Thomas, is he pretty frequent?
Yeah, Dean guests on a lot of stuff. He's been on Unfiltered a bunch. He also has done I want to say he's been on, I mean, I know he's just on Rogan's podcast, but that was this week in 2019. He also just done Unfiltered a bunch. I just said that. He's also done what's the other fucking, he did some of the between round stuff. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think we can probably cut Dean on this list, but just barely. Just for frequency. But Dean's always one of my favorite guests on shows.
I'd probably say, as far as like when I just look at the names on here, if I were to say what's that's
top 3 already. Let's go ahead and list off what we got. So the people we're looking at, other than Uncle Hinach, which we might have to review Uncle Hinach. We'll see where we're at.
I was just thinking about that too.
Well, here I'll read it with Uncle Hinach. So we got Uncle Hinach, John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, Zane Simon, Luke Thomas, Fernanda Praches, John Jones, and Mike Russell.
2 Mike Russells. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely keep John Morgan. He's pretty frequent. He's on a bunch of stuff, and he's really good.
I think we can cut Zane Simon just because I don't think he guests on enough stuff.
I don't think he does either. Luke Thomas is kind of frequent, but more.
I would say he doesn't really guest on a ton of shows, though.
He already has his own stuff he's doing a lot.
Like, he's done some, but yeah, it's mostly all his own content that he's on. You can get rid of
Luke Thomas.
Okay.
What about John Jones, not the steroid cheating guy?
Yeah, I think we can cut John Jones because he's only been on a couple podcasts, but his appearances are always some of my fucking favorites. They're really good. His appearance on Behind the Paywall with TJ and Jeff Sherwood was really good. His appearance on Coast to Coast Combat Hour was really good. I think we can probably cut John Jones, the real John Jones. All right, so we got our top 5. We got narrowed down to 3. We got Uncle Hinach, John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, Fernanda Praches, and Mike Russell. Man, that's tough. I think we got to drop Hinach at this point.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I think between these other 4, I don't know if he hangs. So John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, Fernanda Praches, and Mike Russell. Shit. I think this might be where we have to drop Fernanda Praches.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Only because she hasn't guested on enough stuff. If she was on more episodes of MMA Roadshow or as a guest on a Junkie or other stuff more, I would definitely have her in the top 3 because I think all of her content is great. Another person who I've tried online to talk into starting a show. Yeah, but I think we're gonna have to cut her compared to the others. So we got our top 3 in no particular order. We have John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, and Mike Russell.
It's tough.
It's really tough because they all bring such different things. Oh, man. So Mike Russell, I always love his guest spots because it's 100% going to be all about Ali, and he is 100% going to bring up factual information that can be backed with a bunch of different information. And if it's not Ali, stuff like the Edmonton Commission and all of that craziness. And he is one of those people who is not afraid to just dunk on everybody if they need dunking on. Man. So,
Yeah.
At a certain point, this gets really tough because they all kind of cover such different things. I love Sean Sheehan, especially on Submission Radio, mostly for his breakdowns.
Yeah, I do notice he is a frequent guest on Submission Radio. Just the work he does with his own podcast, Severe MMA, he doesn't really kind of, I'm not going to say break character, because he's not a character, it's him speaking his mind, but I really kind of, he feels like the same amount of energy that he brings from that show, he brings to other people's shows as well.
Definitely.
He's definitely still why he should be up there.
And then John Morgan is he's just good. John Morgan's just real good.
I'd probably lean John Morgan, I guess, as my pick, but I'm not mad if you give it to the other two guys too. I'll let you be the tiebreaker for whatever. I don't know where you're leaning.
I don't know where I'm leaning either on this one. I think it has to be John or Sean just because of their frequency of appearances on other shows and the quality of those appearances. Mike Russell, I would give it to if he was on more stuff. He's just not. He's been on, I would say, probably 5 to 10 shows I've heard this year, as opposed to John Morgan and Sean, which I've heard on a ton of shit. Not to mention each other's shows and stuff like that. So I think you're right. I think we got to go John Morgan. As much as I want to give it to Sean Sheehan, I think we got to go John Morgan on this one. Man.
It's a solid choice.
It's literally a coin flip. It could be either one of them. But I'll go John Morgan just for frequent, the amount he appears on other shows and the quality of those appearances where he's talking, he's always informed, he's always up to date, and while he won't just straight up dunk on dudes, he will subtly drop references to stuff. So yeah, I think between his MMA Junkie appearances, between his appearances on Submission Radio, and a bunch of others, I think probably got to give it to John. So congratulations to John Morgan for being the best non-fighter guest. With runners-up Sean Sheehan and Mike Russell.
Definitely in good company.
All right, so up next we got best fighter guest.
So I'll name these off if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So nominees for the best fighter guests. So these are guests that have appeared on podcasts that are currently active fighters or currently rostered in a promotion, I believe. I think
they're all active fighters.
They're all active. All training, I should say.
Maybe not. Mostly all active. There's one that is we'll get to why there's one that is on the edge. Not due to her. It's not her fault that she's on the edge.
Yeah. So let's see. So we got, starting from the top, Kevin Lee. We have Donald Cowboy Cerrone. We have Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, Ben Askren, Tai Tuivasa, Angie Overkill Hill, Nikki Gall, Platinum Mike Perry, Leslie Smith, Yoel Romero, Eve Edwards, Derek Lewis, Israel Adesanya, Dustin Poirier, Alan Jouban, Paul Felder, Demetrius Johnson, and Dominic Cruz.
Why you gotta go ahead and put DJ and Dom all close together like that?
Because they're both tiny.
Shots fired.
They're tiny like me.
Oh, well, that's true. You guys are all not that far apart in height.
Let's see. So, how do you want to just do kind of get rid of? I don't want to say get rid of. That's kind of rude.
Well, yeah, we just need to start cutting people off.
Yeah, let's cut. I don't want to say let's do this fast, but
yeah,
let's do it efficiently.
Yep.
I like Yoel Romero a lot. I know his English is getting better.
Yeah,
he's a very charismatic guy, very suave.
He's mostly just on this list because of the Rogan and Diaz episodes, though, right?
Yeah, I kind of miss his translator, that guy Ray. That guy was kind of funny.
Oh,
very
yeah.
Self-aware.
Yeah, I think we can definitely cut Yoel.
I feel like anyone that Yoel hangs out with is just fucking shredded. I like Chael Sonnen a lot. I think he's great. He's very insightful, but I think I'd rather listen to him on his own podcast.
Right. I'd rather listen to him with Joel.
Yes.
It's really all I want.
So he could hear who Joel's going to threaten to snap and drag.
That's right. Or if Joel is threatens and then is about to get beat up by, if you listen to recent ones.
Alan Joban, I could knock down a notch, mainly because I already like what he does with Karen Bryant.
Yeah, and he hasn't guested on a ton of. He hasn't guested on a ton of stuff either.
Leslie Smith, I don't think has guessed. I mean, she probably has guested on a lot of stuff, and more so to be affiliated with her Project Spearhead. Which is
that's
very
the thing
important.
Is she guested on a lot of shows around the time she got dropped from the UFC. And they were really good, but this is technically supposed to be active fighter,
I guess.
So I think just on a technicality, I think we can cut Leslie on this one. Which it sounds savage now that I think about it, that we're cutting her for not being active since she got cut. So that's kind of fucked up. But yeah, I love Leslie Smith. There's a reason why our logo looks the way it is, and I'm a huge fucking Leslie Smith fan.
We'll always have love for Leslie Smith, 100%.
100%. I hope she starts up another podcast.
Yeah, that'd be dope. So let's see. Looking at this list. Cowboy, I know he was on GRE.
That was a really good episode.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah.
He could probably stay up there. Angela Hill.
Well, go ahead. Keep going.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say he was on that one episode of JRE, and he's been on Unfiltered, but that's pretty much it, right?
I think so. I think that's kind of it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a really fucking good episode of JRE, though.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was Kevin Lee as well.
Kevin Lee
was on MMA Roasted.
Yeah, he's been on MMA Junkie a shitload, too.
Yeah. So he could...
I think Cerrone we can probably cut.
Yeah.
Just because I think a lot of these other people have been on more stuff and have had some pretty fucking crazy episodes this year. Like, there's a couple of these that are just standouts. Paul Felder, I think we can unfortunately probably cut as well.
Yeah.
Because, again, he's been on Junkie a lot. He's been on Unfiltered a couple times, but I love Paul Felder. I wish he would... Another dude I wish would have a podcast. Like, I think him and Bilal, remember the name Muhammad, would have a great show if they did one.
I think so.
Or like with Jared Gordon too, but
no name comes to mind. I was mentioning Angela Hill, but that's because I like her more when she's doing Two Straws with Jessica.
Yeah, and she another person who hasn't guested on a ton of stuff.
Because on her own show, she can kind of really flesh out who she really is instead of just kind of just being. Obviously depends
and
on
make
the show.
Weird jokes and shit.
Yeah, that you're featuring. Yeah. She's more kind of goofy, and not in a bad way. Obviously, that's just like what makes her likable.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of more suited well when she's on her own podcast.
I agree. I think so. Before we get too much further, I think there's two people who have to be on this list.
Oh, I'd say number one for sure, Ben Askren.
Really?
Well, maybe I'm giving too much. Maybe I'm a little biased because I love that episode that he's on with JRE.
Yeah, it's real good.
So
here's okay. I think there's we have a top 5 right now, and I'm just going to make it, and you can tell me what you think. What about this top 5 right here? Oh, God. I fucked this up. Here we go. How about that top 5? What do you think of that?
I like it.
So the top 5 we got... Because I think we can cut Dom, DJ, Poirier, Mickey Gall, DC... Well, actually, DC, shit. Well, here, let me talk through them. So Eve Edwards, I fucking love on stuff. This was a weird way to phrase that. He was great on JRE. He's great on MMA Roasted when he's on there. He was fucking taking care of Adam's kid in the background on one of the episodes not that long ago.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if he hangs, just like I'm not sure if a handful of these other dudes hang compared to this top 5. So I think we can cut DJ and Dom. I like them both, but neither of them is... They're interesting to listen to. They're not necessarily the most dynamic interviews, and they don't guest on a lot of stuff. It's basically just Ariel's show. Poirier and Mickey Gall were both really good. Poirier had that episode with Theo Vaughn on his show. He's also been on Junkie a bunch of times, stuff like that. I think he was on Unfiltered also. But I'll go ahead and say DC and Kevin Lee, I think we can cut also, because this top 5 of Ben Askren, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Israel Adesanya, and Mike Perry, I think that is a hell of a list.
Yeah, that's a fantastic list.
They all appeared on a lot of stuff, and they were all fucking hilarious and wild and interesting.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. Yeah, just out of this top 5 alone, Derek Lewis, like you said, he's him and Mike Perry specifically, and even Ty. Those 3 guys are pretty ridiculous when it comes to, you kind of don't know what they're gonna say.
Yeah, they're gonna say some crazy shit, like Mike Perry talking about fucking his corner, telling him to go, 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 and him yelling, "I don't want to get fucking hit right now."
Yeah,
it's real dumb. Although I think we can cut Mike Perry for just kind of being a garbage human.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, I don't know if I can call him garbage.
That dude has been way too happy about his DNA test that he took this year, and
that is true. That is kind of weird.
Yeah. And I don't care if Tyler Woodley gave him a pass. I'm still uncomfortable with the way he uses certain words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the question: does Tai Tuivasa hang with Askren, Derek Lewis, and Adesanya?
Nah.
Because he's been hilarious, but again, he hasn't been on a ton of stuff. And Ty is funny, but Ty's funnier on his show with Pedro than he is as a guest. Because a lot of times as a guest, he's just kind of like... He's pretty... Unless he's like gets comfortable with the person he's doing the interview with, he can get a little like short answered and stuff like that.
I think you're right.
All right, so here's our top 3 in no order. Ben Askren, Derek Lewis, and Israel Adesanya.
Damn, this is tough.
It's really tough.
Askren and Adesanya are both fantastic because they both had very good, solid, in-depth episodes with Joe.
Yeah, definitely.
And they carry themselves very well. They're both articulate. They both are kind of... They both have vastly different stories. I mean, everyone kind of has their own story. Same with Derek Lewis. His story is insane. That's the thing. Like, that's why I really want to see Derek Lewis on JRE at some point.
That would be an amazing episode.
I almost want to say Derek Lewis is my number 1 pick.
I think I got to go Derek Lewis, too.
I just have to. Yeah, I just have to. He's just fucking hilarious.
He's too fucking funny. Yeah. It's not fair.
Yeah. Especially, I don't even know when the last time he was on Ariel's show, but he was a big reason why I would even tune in to an episode of Ariel's show.
I mean,
when it was the MMA Fortnite.
Honestly.
Especially when he would Skype in with his fucking MAGA hat. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, just like trolling everybody and talking shit to everybody, but also just like laughing and fucking saying crazy shit. Like, that doesn't even count all the times he said crazy shit in, like, post-fight interviews and stuff like that. Yeah, I think we gotta give it to Derek Lewis. So our best fighter guest of 2018 is Derek Lewis, followed by runners-up Israel Adesanya and Ben Askren.
Yep.
That was a hell of a category. Those last two are like some of the toughest ones generally. Although we have some tough ones coming up as well. All right, so up next we have the best episode of the year. This is always a tough one because so much fucking comes out every year. I just wrote down a handful of nominations. This is definitely one that I'd be interested to hear anybody listening. If you guys have recommendations for episodes I didn't think of or that I might have missed, absolutely let us know on Twitter, TSOVpod. Because, yeah, there's too many to really go through it. So do you want to name off the nominees here?
Yeah, so nominees for best episodes, or best episode of the year.
That's a Doug Stanhope podcast.
Doug Stanhope podcast, but it's episode 244 with Richard Hunter, Dick Hunter, and Frank Mir.
Yep.
Phone Booth Fighting, speaking of which, episode 221 with Doug Stanhope in Vegas. The Halfcast podcast, hosted by co-hosted by Tai Tuivasa, Tyson Pedro. The episode with Mark Hunt. JRE MMA show with Ben Askren is a nominee. JRE MMA show with Yoel Romero. JRE MMA show with George St. Pierre. JRE MMA, god damn it, I can't even say this. JRE MMA show with Israel Adesanya. And JRE MMA show with Cowboy Cerrone. All fantastic episodes. The Church of What's Happening Now, that's Joey Diaz's podcast, as you probably already know. Episode 566 with Yoel Romero. Believe You Me, episode 65 with Renato Larange, where, yeah, we'll discuss that one. Heavy Hands 218, a farewell to Dr. Patrick Wyman. That was his last episode Pat Wyman did. Punch Kick Chill, episode 9, the Diaz versus Gomi analysis, whatever you want to call it.
I wouldn't call it analysis. I would call it...
let's call it an
their
experience.
tribute to a sick kid in the hospital, as I was described.
Yeah. That's what that one was, yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny. If I Did It, The Bloody Elbow Repents. I'm trying to remember which one I know.
That is the recent one that they did where they gave Bloody Elbow PR advice for what happens if you have a pedo in your midst.
Yeah. Valetudo Hour 13 with Josh Barnett and Alyssa Garcia.
That's the Halloween episode where they did a commentary for a bad 80s movie.
Co-main event podcast, movie night, Scorched Earth, the very, very not good.
Gina Carano one. Yep.
Co-main event, Pride FC Drinking Challenge. That was a fun one. And the co-main event, Power Hour, Chuck versus Tito 3. I think that's where, what was it, Chad's dad's house? Or they watched it with someone's dad?
Something like, well, no. So Chad's dad was supposed to come, but he ended up passing out. And I'm going to go ahead and start by saying we can cut the Power Hour with Chuck versus Tito 3. Because it was so depressing. Yeah, everybody just got real sad during that one. Yeah,
just that fight just didn't happen to me. It makes me sad.
Yeah, I know, me too. I think we can also cut JRE MMA show with GSP. It was a good one, but there's been better episodes with GSP.
Let's see.
We could probably cut Scorched Earth as well because that's a bad movie.
Yeah.
And while I enjoyed their the CME commentary of the Gina Carano movie, the audio was rough enough that I don't think it hangs.
Yeah, that wasn't really top notch. At least what we're used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was good. It's just since they had the movie audio bleeding into the background, it made it weird. I think we can also probably cut the half cast with Mark Hunt.
Yeah.
It was a good one. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. But just the accents alone make that shit a little hard to get through.
Just a little bit. Unless maybe you're doing a shoey.
Exactly. This is where it starts getting tough.
Let's kind of real quick. Let's narrow down what our favorite JRE MMA is. Unless it comes down to two of those in the top three, I was kind of thinking the ones that are kind of not repeats, but the repeat show.
I would say either Yoel or Cowboy.
As far as the two best?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That Cowboy episode was really fucking good, but so is the Yoel one.
I see. Yeah, so we can get rid of Askren and Adesanya then.
Yeah, they were both good episodes, but I don't know if they hang with the other ones. I think on that same note, we can probably cut the Doug Stanhope podcast, episode 244 with Richard Hunter and Frank Mir. It was a good one, but I don't know if it...
Let's say on the note of Yoel, which Yoel one would you rather keep? Joey Diaz one or Joe Rogan?
That's a tough one. I think probably the Joe Rogan one, since Joey Diaz was on that as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was... They cover a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
But it's more in English, because Joey's translating more, so... yeah, we'll go with that. Oh, man, this is where it starts getting real tough. I think we can cut the Valley Tudo Hour, episode 13, with Josh Barnett and Alyssa Garcia. It was really fucking funny, but I don't know that it hangs with the quality of the rest of these. Man, this is getting really hard.
I think we... Can we get rid of Heavy Hands?
Yeah,
as much as I like that.
It's more of an emotional pick than an actual quality pick. Like, it was a good episode, don't get me wrong. And that was one that had Pat Wyman and Phil McKenzie both on it, along with Connor. But
I say get rid of If I Did It, just because I like what they did. It was important what they discussed. I just hate what had happened.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Of that.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you on that. But It's super important that they did that episode, and that episode really stands out as an important thing. But also, is it the best thing? I don't know if it's the best thing. But I do like that they did it, and I just wanted to give it some acknowledgement.
Was the Stanhope in Vegas one the one that you had on?
Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
That one is in my top 3, as far as I'm concerned. I really... we might have to fist fight if you want to take that off this list.
I
they're all drinking.
I think that's in top 3.
Yeah, Frank Mir is drinking. They're making fun of Richard Hunter for losing
I'll say
his
this
fight.
right now. My top 2 of my top 3 right now, I'll just say right off the bat, is that one and the Jerry with Yoel and Joey Diaz. That shit was fucking hilarious and fascinating.
Yeah. Man.
That's for me. So I'd say get rid of that. Oh, the Cowboy one's good too, though.
Cowboy one's really good too. I don't think Believe You Me hangs on this.
Like right now, I kind of want to just say that my top 3 would be the Stanhope in Vegas, Jerry with Yoel, and then the Punch Kick Chill.
The Punch Kick Chill thing is so fucking insane.
Yeah, it's just very meta too. It's just kind of...
Yeah, it's wild as shit, and
I know we're kind of patting yourself on the back in a weird sense.
I mean,
but not really.
We should say we are biased about that one, since I was the sick kid they kept referencing in that episode, which was hilarious. But it's just a fucking crazy episode. The Diaz brothers show up during that fight talking about it.
Yeah.
I believe that's the
How
first
many times
episode
does
where
he say
Justin,
like motherfucker? It's pretty funny.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the episode where Justin first goes into the time nexus as well. Also, I think they might use a veto in that episode. Yeah, okay. So, oh man. Okay, so it sounds like the co-main event Pride FC drinking challenge isn't on there.
That's a fun one, but we can get rid of that.
Yeah. So I think what we have to... So...
I'll let you choose between Cowboy and Yoel.
I think we have to go Yoel.
Yeah, I would.
Because Joey Diaz and Yoel was something special. I love the Cowboy episode. I don't think we can put the Cowboy episode on there since they edited it.
Oh, that's right.
And so here's my question, Chris. Is the winner of this the Doug Stanhope one or Punch Kick Chill? Because it's one of those two as far as I'm concerned.
I'd say Stanhope.
Yeah, I wanted Stanhope too. It's fucking great. All right, perfect. So the best MMA podcast of best MMA podcast episode of 2018, according to us, is Phone Booth Fighting, episode 221, the Swap Cast with Doug Stanhope.
That's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, there's video of it on YouTube. Yeah, it's fucking great.
Check that out
It's with them in Vegas at the No Regrets bar with Doug Stanhope, Chad Shank, and Joby.
I forgot. Was that... So that almost could be... That's an episode we also recommend that you could drink along with.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
If that was an best episode to drink and get drunk or smoke and get high to, that's That and Punch Kick Chill are like 1 and 2, neck and neck. But yeah, it's fantastic. Perfect. Well, we will keep on moving on. I'm excited about this category, but this is a fucking murderer's row. Best new show. So this is a best new MMA podcast that began in 2018. And holy shit, are there some really good ones on this list. Chris, you want to break them down? Or run them down, rather?
Yeah, I'll definitely name it here. So nominees for Best New Show: Punch, Kick, Chill, Rider and the Fighter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, Menace and the Man, Valetudo Combat Hour, Frenemies, Luke Thomas's MMA Hour, Beatdown with was it TJ DeSantis and Dean Thomas?
Yep.
Is that what that is? Yeah. MMA by the Numbers, The MMA Nerd, Complete KO, Grange TV, Ariel's MMA Show, Full Reptile Radio, A-Side Live Chat, Eurobash, Fistic Arts, The Timbo Sugar Show, and The Trenches, I believe is what it was.
So I'm going to go ahead and say Ariel's show can get pulled.
Yeah, I'm not against that.
I think it barely counts as a new show. It's basically the same show he was doing.
Yeah, it's the same show.
On that note, I think we can probably pull Luke Thomas's MMA Hour and Beatdown with TJ and Dean as well for the same reason.
Agree.
Ooh, this is gonna be a tough one. Fistic Arts, I'm thinking we can pull. I really like it. I just don't know that it hangs.
Is the Timbo Sugar Show, is that the Sean O'Malley one?
Yeah, that's Sean O'Malley's show.
Okay.
That he does with his buddy Tim.
I don't even think I listened to that one. Unfortunately, I can't really have a say in that.
We can cut it. I've listened to a couple of them, but
I listened to
I don't think it
Eurobash,
hangs with some of
once.
these.
I did listen to A-Side a couple times.
Yeah.
I do like A-Side a lot. I don't really recall The Trenches.
The Trenches is
Complete KO.
So Complete KO. Oh, I fucking cannot remember dude's name right now. Damn it, I can't remember the. Here, let me look that up while I talk about it. Complete KO is a good show. It started pretty recently, like within the last couple months. I think it's Cody might be. No, that's a different show. MMA podcast. I can't remember dude's name, and it's driving me fucking nuts. Shit. What is dude's name? Well, you know what? I guess that means that this isn't gonna hang if I can't. Oh, Sasha Mox or Mokes. Yeah, I guess that doesn't hang at that point if I can't remember dude's name. But I like that show. But yeah, I don't know if it hangs with some of these other ones. Full Reptile Radio, I'm going to go ahead and say we can pull too. That's Dan Hardy's show, but he hasn't done it that consistently. Eurobash, I think we can pull. I like Pizza Carroll, who is the host on that, but I haven't listened to enough of it to give it a pick in this one. I think The Trenches we can also pull. I really like Ant Walker. That's the Sherdog live chat show. But I've just recently found out about it within the last couple weeks. So I haven't listened to enough of it to be able to give it top rank amongst some of these others.
I don't really recall Coast to Coast Combat Hour.
That's the one with Ed Carbazal and Matt Hawkins. They're the guys from the MMA community. They do like kind of like a back and forth show.
Okay.
It's real good. I don't know if it hangs amongst these, but it's really fucking good. They've done a lot of shows with Nolan King as well, which I like. I'm a big Nolan King fan. He's one of my favorite dudes on Twitter when it comes to like fight announcements and stuff like that. So, you know what? We'll get back to that. I don't know if it's going to make it, but I don't necessarily want to cut it just yet. I think before that, though, I think we can cut for now. I think MMA by the Numbers and the MMA Nerd.
Yeah, that's fine.
I really like them. I like Ashley's show is fantastic, the MMA Nerd, and she has for someone who's doing a one-person show like Bill Burr style, she really has a cool back and forth with the audience, and I really like her kind of just cadence and the way she discusses stuff, and how like genuinely invested she seems in all of her picks and everything. I just don't know if it hangs amongst some of these other ones. Same with MMA by the Numbers, another tough show to do. Like, if this was a list of the hardest shows to do as a host, especially as someone not necessarily known, those are probably the top two, because they're just by themselves talking about either stats that they've looked up or their thoughts on fights, and that's super tough to do and still be engaging. But I just don't know that they necessarily hang amongst these other ones. How do you feel about Grange TV? That's the show that Robert Whitaker guests on.
Yeah, I think
there's like a semi-host on it.
Like once or twice, to be honest. That's why I feel bad.
Yeah.
Some of these, like, I know the name, I listened to it at least once, but I didn't listen to it to them frequently enough to really kind of say, oh yeah, this should be cut.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think we can cut Grange TV.
Yeah, like off the top of my head, the ones I listened to quite a bit or just enough. I listened to Frenemies enough, A-Side Live Chat. A-Side Live Chat's kind of one of my top ones, I would say, out of the remainder ones.
Really? That's the show with Mark Ramondi and Sean Al-Shadi. They basically took over for Luke Thomas's old live chat.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's because I like the live chat and I love promotional malpractice, so I'm a little bit biased there. I kind of like that style of show. That Valley Tudo is that Josh Barnett's?
No, that's Hanato Lange.
That's his, duh.
Yeah. I think we can cut Valley Tudo Combat Hour, though. Just because he's done, I think, 13 episodes this year.
Okay.
So I think if he put out more episodes, I could probably see it on this list. But since he hasn't put one out since like October,
I don't think I listened to Dennis Bermudez' podcast. I think I didn't even listen to that. Actually,
it's really fucking good. It's really good. Okay. Yeah, man. I since you didn't listen to it, I don't know if we can put it as one of our show's go-tos. But it's really fucking good. I would recommend it highly. I just found out about it, to be honest, like a couple weeks ago. I think they're only on their 10th episode or so, 10th or 11th. But it's fucking fantastic. All right, so we got 5. We need to narrow it down to 3. Right now we have Punch, Kick, Chill, Writer and the Fighter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, Frenemies, and the A-Side Live Chat. I think Punch, Kick, Chill has to stay on this list.
I think it should.
And I think... so I think probably we have to take off Coast to Coast Combat Hour.
Yeah.
As much as I love those dudes, it's not a show that you listen to a lot of or much of at all, really. And it's a really good show. I really enjoy it, but I don't know if it hangs with some of these other ones. Actually, it totally does, but I don't know if it hangs in like as a combined show pick with some of these others.
I'd say that just you can get rid of live chat, and then the top 3 are pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm with that. So we have Punch, Kick, Chill, Writer and the Fighter, and Frenemies.
Part of me is leaning towards Frenemies as not the. I don't want to say the number. I guess I could say the number 1, but I'm a little. The production on there is kind of, aren't they backed by like an actual like production company though? So
yeah.
I don't want to say that's unfair.
I mean, it's like the exact opposite of the other two, where Punch, Kick, Chill is just Justin and Jason fucking over Skype just talking shit and being weird.
Yeah.
And then Writer and the Fighter is
Jake Smith.
We should mention Jake Smith and David Golden talking about fights and all that. I really like Writer and the Fighter. But I fucking love Punch, Kick, Chill. This is a really tough one, too. Man.
I'd probably, if I were to just pick, and it's based on more or less to how many times you love talking about the show, I'd probably say the best new show, at least from what I remember hearing you talk about, is probably Writer and the Fighter. As far as
I'm kind of with that.
That'd just be my pick. Based on as far as all the shows that we've discussed over the past year and kind of what helps us with whether we're previewing a card or recapping. Those two guys, I think, do a great job. But they're kind of, I don't want to say they're more in line with kind of like our style, but it's definitely kind of more in, we like to analyze fights. We like to discuss other MMA related stuff. I think those two, that show would be my best new show.
They're also hilarious too.
Yeah.
Like they came up with the concept of the Saps, where they want to have Bob Sapp and Warren Sapp host a TV show together, where they just do like a reality TV show.
Yeah.
I believe they pitched recently that they wanted to have Bob Sapp and Warren Sapp. I can't remember if it was that they wanted them to be a part of like the fucking UFC 232 chaos of it moving to LA. Oh, maybe that was a joke I made on Twitter about like, oh, next episode on the Saps. Bob found out that he has Bob and Warren found out they have to drive the entire UFC 232 card to LA. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're right. So our best new MMA podcast for 2018 is Writer on the Fighter, with runners up Punch Kick Chill and Frenemies.
So,
Sweet. So why don't we? Let's do our in memoriam, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll get into our top 10.
I'm done with that.
So our in memoriam, this is the list of MMA podcasts that died in 2018. And yeah, RIP to a lot of them. It's a fucking bummer. Some of them have gone on to live in different forms. But why don't you run them down for us?
So in memoriam, this basically, we'll describe it briefly as, I guess we'll call it a brief obituary for these shows.
Exactly.
Promotional malpractice, I was really bummed to see that go, but
Yeah.
we also, if that didn't go away, we wouldn't have Luke Thomas's MMA Hour, which is great.
Yep. And it kind of turned into the MMA Hour, similarly with Monday Morning Analysts. Like, those both kind of morphed into segments on his new show.
Yeah, he kind of pseudo kept both of them anyways.
Yep.
Which I enjoy. Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour, or what we used to, or what was basically called the MMA Fortnight.
Yeah, I believe it was the MMA Fortnight. Now it is the MMA Hour. I think that's canonical.
Or the MMA Hours, I guess, or whatever his new show is. What's his new show?
Oh, well, his new show is just the Ariel Helwani MMA Show, I believe, which is a terrible name. I mean, it's not like it's any worse than MMA Hour that was 4 hours long, but...
Yeah, the MMA Hours is basically what I would kind of refer to as.
Yep. RIP to the Pound for Pound podcast, which was Sam Alvey's podcast. I fucking missed that show. I used to love that thing. I actually told Sam Alvey when I saw him down in San Diego last year at the Del Mar Fair Fights, 2017. I told him, hey, dude,
summer.
I love your... Yeah, I was like, I love your podcast. Keep doing it. And then a year later, he stopped doing it. So.
Oh, fuck. Call Me Al is gone?
I don't know. I haven't seen an episode in like 6 months.
Maybe it's on a hiatus. Who knows? Just... So, Way of the Warrior, you put kind of? It's kind of dead?
Yeah, like it's basically dead. They said sometimes they might come back and do an episode, or they might do episodes not about MMA, or I don't know. But if you notice, they haven't really been putting out consistent episodes since Conor Habib.
MMA On Point.
MMA On Point used to have a podcast, and then they just recently signed on the obviously Fight Talk guys to do their show on the MMA On Point YouTube channel. So they're no longer doing the old MMA On Point show. It wasn't one that I listened to a ton, and I really like obviously Fight Talk, so it's not a huge loss, but it's worth noting. The G Word, yeah, that was the short-lived show that Rose Gracie did with TJ DeSantis when TJ was recording out of her out of like a back room in her gym, and since TJ moved and is no longer doing shows out of Rose's gym, they're not doing that show anymore. It was a good one though. I mean, there was a lot of Rose Gracie talking about the fucking Gracie diet and how people should not eat meat, but you know, what are you gonna do?
And this one really bummed me out.
It fucking hurts to this day.
God damn it. Talking Daniel Cormier and his buddy Nick Swimmer's podcast.
Daniel Cormier, why can't you just come back to us? Yeah, you had one. You were on our top list of podcasts last year.
Yeah, it was great. It was fucking hilarious.
Oh, by the numbers, actually, last year, that show got Best New Show. And you gave him Best Episode last year.
That's right.
But it's
the chicken wing one.
Yeah. Oh, and it got number 5 on our top 5 podcast last year.
Yeah, that's how great of a 2017 those guys had.
It was real good. So R.I.P.
Maybe we should tweet at DC like, "Where's Talkin' Talker?"
For real. Yeah, we'll do that this week.
This is Luca Fury's show, right? Fury's Fight Picks.
Yeah, he's no longer doing that, even though he's doing it for a long time.
Is he kind of just still on Anik and Florian?
Oh no, I don't even know. He did that a long time ago, and even then, it was just like a single appearance, I think. Yeah, no. Every once in a while, you'll hear Luca pop in on one of TJ's shows, like very rarely. But no, he's mostly out of the MMA game entirely, and can just be seen saying snarky shit on MMA Twitter and wandering around Vegas. So, and then a bunch of the Bloody Elbow shows died for a good reason. That's all I want to say about that. However, the good parts of those shows are coming back in new forms in 2019, and we will have more on that next week. But RIP and condolences to all these shows. I hope a lot of you come back, but if you don't, I get it. Podcasts aren't for everybody, bruh.
No, they are not.
Cool. Well, we will go ahead and take a brief break. Here, while we're on break, you guys can listen to a clip of our favorite episode from this year of Phone Booth Fighting, episode 221 with Doug Stanhope in Vegas. And when we come back, we will break down our top 10 MMA podcasts for 2018, as well as Chris and I will each give our catch, skip, and can't miss for the year. So we'll be right back.
Liked by the sound of violence.
But while I was missing the fight, they missed 3 of the 6 seconds. Joby and Chad
3 of the 6
literally doing this, the old fanning my face over Roxanne.
I know. I tried to call her. You guys freaked her out. I called her up when I was leaving. I'm like, oh shit, I was supposed to tell her to come over.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Roxanne, these guys, they're cool guys, fans, friends of ours. Come down, just stop on for 5 minutes of the show.
We look bad on paper, but
she's like, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I'm like, what the fuck do you got to go do? Come on.
No, we're just.
I'll tell you what she
you
had to do.
intimidated the fighter.
I'll tell you what she had to do. She looked at who it was and decided that was not
anything
a good
was
idea.
better than what they
She's a logical human being.
We're so huge fans of hers, from Invicta. From the beginning when Invicta was
to me,
she's a good fighter. I like watching her fight.
She's such a
great
great story
grappler
too. Because when we started watching her in Invicta, she was different and she had an awkward style, and so we're going for her because and then at that point she became our favorite Invicta fighter, but we never. And then all of a sudden she's in the UFC. We're like, that's an unlikely story for her to be in the UFC like that so fast. And then
and don't be surprised if before she's done, she's fighting for the title.
For the title because of all the circumstances.
Well, we fight it again,
Great.
Plug.
She's actually a super sweet person.
Please follow at Roxy ROXY Fighter. ROXY Fighter. And say,
Roxanne Modafferi.
Tweet her and tell her we love her. Here is Big Dick's opponent.
And
Big Dick Slayer.
And new.
And new. Undefeated amateur MMA fighter. All right, Scott. Welcome to the SWATcast. You're actually on 2 podcasts right now. Okay. You're on Phone Booth Fighting and you're on Doug Stanhope's podcast.
Are you more afraid of being on microphone versus the ring?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I did kind of take a nap before the fight, so I don't think I was afraid. But I've never been one for nerves, though.
Have you played other sports?
I was a swimmer through high school. That was about it.
God, say you were a D1 wrestler. Just say yeah.
What up, everybody? We are back, and we are about to get into our top 10 MMA shows for 2018, or I should say MMA podcasts. I just cracked open something I'm nervous about. We'll see if this thing is any good still. I've got at Preferred Liquors out here in Santee, shout out. I bought a 2010 Stone Brewing Old Guardian barley wine. I'm interested to see if this thing is still any good. It was not kept in the dark or at a cooled temperature, so I have a feeling it might be hot trash. But we will see.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, it's dark as fuck. Ooh, that smells kind of fucked up. Yeah, that smells funky as hell. I think it got oxidized, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no. Oh, good luck to you.
Actually, oxidized on the nose, taste isn't too bad.
Okay.
Most of the bitterness is falling out of it finally. It is a little bit fucked up on the flavor. It's not bad though. It's definitely a little
2010?
Oxidized. Yeah, 2010. So it's
Jesus.
8 years old.
Or 9 now?
Well, yeah, it's
Probably
an early.
8.5.
It's an early 2010, so probably 9.
Beer Advocate says it's exceptional.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was back then.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Wow, 11.1% ABV.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been exceptional now if it would have been stored in a cool, dark place. But all in all, it's not bad. It's not like wet. I'm not getting like the wet paper, wet cardboard flavors or anything. But you can definitely get a little bit of oxidation off it. But all in all, not bad for a fucking 9-year-old beer. Actually, you know what? This beer came out the same year I turned 21. How about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, someone just, in a review, it says 5 years seems to be the sweet spot for having an old Guardian. So, give it 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I doubled that. So, luckily, I only got this thing for like $10. So, seems like an alright deal. But yeah, it's definitely a little fucked up. Anyway, not a booze show. So we are going to get into our top 10 MMA podcast for 2018. Chris, you want to go ahead and read off the nominees we have here? I think we have right around 20 or so.
So the nominees for the top 10 best MMA podcasts of 2018, according to us, starting off the top of the list in no particular order, we have Punch Kick Chill, The Joe Rogan Experience MMA Show, Heavy Hands, Collapsed MMA, the Co-Main Event Podcast, the MMA Roadshow, the MMA Vivisection, Submission Radio, Fights Gone By... Oh, what the fuck? Sorry, I was reading this, and now this just got all fucked. Where was I just at?
Fights Gone By?
Okay, yeah. Fights Gone By, Show Money, Writer and the Fighter, the Luke Thomas MMA Hour, Slip and Dip Podcast, UFC Unfiltered, Believe You Me, Protect Your Neck, If I Did It, Care Don't Care, MMA Depressed, and The Outsiders.
Is there any of them that you think we might have missed? I mean, I'm sure there are some, but I don't know if I have any that stand out off the top of my head.
Looks right to me.
All right. Well, again, like we said before, feel free, if you're listening, to send us on Twitter, TSOV Pod. Let us know what shows we should have had on this list if we forgot any. We didn't include every show. There was a little bit of kind of cropping before we put this list together, but I think it's pretty solid 20 or so. We can start whittling down. So we should trying to think about the best way to attack this. We could either start going from the bottom like we've been doing. We can try and get like ones that we know are going to be on the list. What do you think?
Let's do ones that we know. Maybe put like an asterisk next to it, or put them in bold or something.
Yeah, we can do an asterisk. Is there any that you think have to be on this list?
Joe Rogan's MMA for sure, just based on the guests that he had and the fact that some of his episodes are nominees for best episode overall.
That's a good point.
Single episode.
Yeah, he had like 4.
That's got to be on there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Heavy Hands probably needs to be on there.
Heavy Hands, co-main event, MMA Roadshow.
I think co-main. Yeah, I could see MMA Roadshow also. Is there any other that absolutely have to be on there?
Writer and the Fighter, mainly because it's the best new show. So anything that's best next to it, you kind of need to be in a top 10. I think it'd be kind of.
I could see that. Yeah, I think those are the go-to ones that we think have to be on there. So let's start whittling down these other ones. Here, let me move this list around a little bit. Shouts out to Google Docs where we are doing all this. All right. So we have 5 so far. So we need 5 more.
Yeah, we have 5. We need 5 more. Okay.
So let's start whittling down this list if we can. Do you think so? I think the first one that we can probably cut is Unfiltered.
Yeah.
It got a lot better towards the end of this year, if I'm being honest. But I don't think that I don't think it's going to hang.
No, I don't think so either.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Is there any ones that stand out to you as ones you could cut?
I'd get rid of Show Money.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think they had enough episodes, honestly. If they had more episodes, I would probably fight harder for that. But with the number of episodes,
we just need to get rid of what, 3 now?
No, we need to get rid of a lot more than that.
We need to get rid of.
Well, we need 4. We need 5 more, so we need to get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, that's right. Wait.
Because we already have 5 locked in, so we need 5 more.
That's what I meant. Yeah, we need 5 total, but okay.
Believe You Me, do you think it makes it?
I think we can get rid of it, as much as I like that show.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, are there ones you would cut before it?
I don't know, though. I could maybe cut Protect Your Neck, as much as I like Dan Tom.
Really?
But I don't know, that's not true, though, either. Because he was, I think, not up there for one of the best...
Well, just because they won in another category doesn't mean they have to be...
That's true. You
just because they're the best for that category doesn't mean they're the best
that's true.
overall.
That's very true.
I think we can cut MMA Depressed Us.
Yeah.
I really like that show a lot. I think they're doing cool things with it. I don't know if the output, which isn't their fault because the whole design of that show is to do it on weeks where there isn't UFC events. But I think between the output and between sometimes how that show can literally get depressing, I don't know if it makes it, although I am a big fan of it.
Let's see.
I think Slip and Dip can maybe go.
Okay. Yeah.
I really like Slip and Dip a lot. I think Kendrick and Matt are really entertaining, and I like hearing their takes on things. They also get really good guests, generally.
Yeah, that they do.
But I don't know that they're going to hang in this list. Also, they do have a little bit more boxing coverage than a lot of these other shows, which is cool if you're into boxing, but this is not the Sound of Violence Boxing Podcast Awards. So what we have left right now that we need to narrow down to 5 is Punch Kick Chill, MMA Vivisection, Submission Radio, Fights Gone By, Collapsed MMA, Luke Thomas MMA Hour, Believe You Me, Protect Your Neck, If I Did It, Care Don't Care, and The Outsiders.
Just by looking at what's left, I think one that you could absolutely add or save. I really did enjoy Luke Thomas's take on MMA Hour, as far as what he does and kind of puts everything together.
I'm with you on that. I think the way he changed the format of that show and what that show turned into, especially as it's gone on, the first couple weeks were a little rough, but it's really started to get pretty strong. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of some of the listener question segments and stuff like that.
Oh, some of those are pretty funny unintentionally.
Yeah.
Just based on...
But like... And, like, I don't know how many fucking times I can hear the phrase yellow mustard until... Or mouth breathers until they've just 100% run those gimmicks into the ground. But overall, yeah, I think... although it may be towards the bottom of the list, I think it probably deserves to be on there. So I never thought I would have said this if you were to ask me last year, but I don't think Submission Radio makes it.
Yeah, I agree.
I really liked their output this year. I just think their output is far less than what it was last year. And while they did some really cool stuff for, like, UFC 229 and stuff like that.
Yeah, when they were in New York.
Yeah, I just don't know if it really hangs. I think a lot of the output they had was less their podcast and more their YouTube channel. Which, while I still really like their show, I just don't know if it hangs in the top 10.
I think we should add or save If I Did It. That's my that's probably my preferred one out of the two. As
out of
far
that
as
or Care Don't Care?
Yeah, I would probably get rid of Care Don't Care.
I'm with you on both of those decisions. I really like Care Don't Care, but that show is, by definition, going to depend on whatever card it is, and sometimes those are barely about MMA. If they have, like, 2 cares and the rest they're talking about fucking Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds or whatever. Not that I dislike anyone talking about Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. That's my motherfucking jam, but...
Red Right Hand.
Exactly. Alright, so we have 4 more slots and 7 more shows. So we need to cut 3 more.
Oh, no, we have 3 more slots. We already have
Do we?
7
1, 2,
shows.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, you're right. We have 3 more slots. Shit.
So our final 3.
Oh, man. I don't know if Believe You Me hangs on this.
No, you can get rid of that.
I like Believe You Me, but I don't know if it does.
I think we should keep Vivisection.
I think so, too.
That deserves to stay. So 2 left.
So we need to come up with 2 between Punch Kick Chill, Fights Gone By, Collapsed MMA, Protect Your Neck, and The Outsiders. I think Collapsed MMA needs to be on the list.
I think it does too.
Because it's definitely going to be... If it was my list, it would definitely be towards the top. So I think I would have to have that in there.
I like Punch Kick Chill a lot for what Go Lightly and Navarro do.
Yeah, I don't...
But as far
it's
as
so
like
specific
the top 10
as to
MMA,
what it is, yeah.
I don't think it should be in the top 10. Maybe like just outside of it, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. All right, so we're down to Fights Gone By, the Jack Slack Show, Protect Your Neck, Dan Tom's Breakdowns, and The Outsiders with Josh Gross and Jeff Sherwood.
I'll let you choose this final one.
Ooh, I need your input on this because this is like a fucking Sophie's choice for me. I don't know if I would go with Fights Gone By out of these 3.
No, yeah. I think it comes down to Protect Your Neck and The Outsiders.
Man, that's a fucking tough one. You would probably go Protect Your Neck, right? Because you haven't listened to a lot of The Outsiders.
Yeah, if I were to choose, that's what I was kind of letting you.
All right, you know what? Since this is a show list, I think the right way to do that then is to go with Protect Your Neck.
All right.
All right, so then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so in no particular order, then our top 10 MMA shows that we need to get into a ordered 10-to-1 list are as follows. Again, in no order as of yet: JRE MMA show, Heavy Hands, Co-Main Event Podcast, MMA Roadshow, Writer and the Fighter, Luke Thomas MMA Hour, If I Did It, MMA Vivisection, Collapsed MMA, and Protect Your Neck. I think by default, Protect Your Neck might need to be 10 just based on how it edged its way onto this list.
Yeah.
Man. So how... All right, this is where it gets real tough. How should we start tackling this? Is there anything you think needs to be moved up or moved down significantly?
Class MMA could probably go up a couple pegs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If I did it, I think it should be top 5. That's just me.
You think so?
Yeah. At least for what they
I
did
could
this
see
year.
that. Man, this is where it starts getting so granular. I'm eventually gonna start having to crib fucking straight up stuff that they do from Giant Bomb just to try and narrow down this list, I think. All right. Is there anything we think needs to be in the top 3? I think Heavy Hands needs to be in the top 3.
It does, 100%. I'd almost say put Roadshow up there too. Those two, I think, are probably two of my favorite shows to listen to, for at least consistently. That's just me.
Yeah, I could see Roadshow in the top 3. All right, so here's the list as we have it right now. We're just gonna try and talk you guys through this because it's gonna be fucking chaos. We have Heavy Hands, MMA Roadshow, Co-Main Event, JRE, If I Did It, Collapsed MMA, Writer and the Fighter, Luke Thomas, Vivisection, Protect Your Neck. I think we could probably... I don't know if JRE MMA show is number 4. I think we could probably bump it down.
I'd put If I Did It one. Just replace switch
one?
that one with
So then we have If I Did It as number 4 and JRE as number 5.
I actually kind of like this list how it is. Number 1, Heavy Hands. Number 2, Roadshow. Number 3, Co-Main. Then If I Did It, and well, we could switch around some of the other ones, but
Yeah,
I'm fine if you told me right now that's the
it's
top
not bad.
5.
I might lean Collapsed over JRE.
Yeah, I could do that too.
And then what? How do we feel about Luke Thomas being where he's at right now? The MMA Hour is number 8.
I'm okay with that.
How about Vivisection being 9? What if we switched Vivisection and Writer and the Fighter and called this a list?
Yeah, that works with me.
All right, let's see how this. Let's walk through this and see how it sounds. So at number 10 we have Protect Your Neck. Number 9 we have The Writer and the Fighter. Number 8 we have the Luke Thomas MMA Hour. Number 7 we have the MMA Vivisection. Number 6 we have JRE MMA Show. Number 5 we have Collapsed MMA. Number 4 we have If I Did It. Number 3 Co-Main Event Podcast. Number 2 MMA Roadshow. And number 1 Heavy Hands.
I like it.
Should we switch Writer and the Fighter and Luke Thomas? Or do you like them where they're at?
I think it's good.
I think it's good too. Are we sealing it? We locking it in?
I think it's locked in. I think it's good to go.
All right, officially, here is our list for the top 10 MMA podcasts of 2018 according to the Sound of Violence podcast. Your number 10 podcast is Protect Your Neck with Dan Tom. Number 9, The Writer and the Fighter with David Golden and Jake Smith. Number 8, the Luke Thomas MMA Hour. Number 7, the MMA Vivisection with Connor Rebush and Zane Simon. Number 6, the JRE MMA Show with your boy Joe Rogan. Number 5, Collapsed MMA with TJ DeSantis and Jordan Breen. Number 4, If I Did It with Eugene S. Robinson, Alexi Ald, and Kid Nate, or maybe John Dash, depending on what week it is. Yep. Number 3, the Co-Main Event Podcast with Ben Folks and Chad Dundas. Number 2, the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan and Cold Coffee. And number 1, the best MMA podcast of 2018 is Heavy Hands with Connor Rebush and Pat Wyman, and then later in the year, Connor Rebush and Phil McKenzie.
Yep.
That is a hell of a fucking list.
Dudes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's solid.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. I think that describes the year of 2018 in MMA podcast pretty well, as far as I'm concerned. Awesome. Well, then, why don't we go ahead and jump into our personal picks? So we're going to quickly run through our catch, skip, and can't miss. And this is just overall for the year, which podcasts we think that people should catch, skip, and can't miss. And like I said, Chris and I are each going to give a pick for each of these. Do you have yours ready, or you want me to jump into mine first?
You can jump into yours, and I'll figure mine out on the fly.
So my catch for... Man, I was gonna... I think I'm gonna change this on the fly. I think my catch is going to be The Outsiders with Josh Gross and Jeff Sherwood.
Nice.
I think that's a show people should catch. It's real fucking good. I really like Josh Gross. I really like Jeff Sherwood, and it's real solid. I almost went with MMA Depressed, but as much as I like that show, the lack of it's not frequent enough for me to give it the catch. Since by the time it comes around again, no one's going to remember that I mentioned it. So yeah, I would say subscribe to TJ DeSantis's Between Rounds Patreon and check out The Outsiders, which is one of 10 shows you get for $5 a month. Go do it.
Alrighty. My catch for... Yeah, let's see.
You still debating it?
Yeah, you know what? I'd say my catch is the MMA Roadshow. I like how John Morgan, each episode, is able to he's able to weave in and intertwine interviews with fighters, media personnel, along. Just he kind of, I don't know how would I say this. He juxtaposes it really in a fluid way. So he'll be speaking about the card or his thoughts about things in the MMA news, and I'm like, oh, by the way, speaking of this guy, I actually interviewed him, blah 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 blah. Here's a segment from that, and then he's able to just kind of bounce in this. I just like the way that podcast flows really well, and like we were discussing earlier, he's always there on location. He's usually having what he calls a frosty beverage.
That's
with
right.
Another MMA related person, whether they're a fighter, non-fighter. I just really
some great
like that.
guests too. He's had Mike Bond, Cold Coffee, Sandu, whose first name I always fuck up so bad I try to avoid saying it. Fernanda Praches.
I feel it's just that one show that you can always kind of consistently catch.
Yeah, it's my favorite Friday morning podcast.
Yeah. So that's my catch of 2018, I guess I would call it.
I think that's a great one. Do you have a skip for 2018? Just because we were saying to skip your show doesn't mean we hate you. It might just mean that you are a little TMZ gossip who can't leave well enough alone and has turned into a fucking shit show. I don't know if that at all teases my pick.
And I like this guy. I don't necessarily really like his show that much. For me, it's Below the Belt. It's
gotten better recently. To be fair,
I'll give it another shot. To be honest, I don't want to just say it's just a skip forever. Cause that's bullshit. I'm not going to be that guy. But I've kind of had trouble just going back to it because I can't remember what fight or which fight it was. There's a remark that Brendan Shaw made. I was fucking baffled by it. How the fuck can you think that? What?
Well, he also recently just said the tension fight was fake.
Oh, see what I mean? You motherfucker.
Right. He also told Josh Thompson that Conor was going to beat Khabib right to Josh Thompson's face. And Josh Thompson, in that same episode, said, well, I think that Khabib's going to fight Conor like Randy Couture fought James Toney and go for a low single leg early on. And literally the first thing Khabib does in that fight is shoot a low single. So...
It's like, let me tell a fucking teammate of Khabib's to his face that he's going to lose and not expect what's going to be...
And it's like one of those things where he's like, I think Conor's going to catch his wind in the 3rd and 4th round. And you're like, motherfucker, have you seen a Conor fight? Dude's dying in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my is brought to one of my favorite sports personalities, Shannon Sharp. That's my skip of 2018.
Understandably. Brendan actually had some moments, like when he was shitting on Jeff Nowitzki and Rogan. I was like, for that whole shit show, that really like kept him off of my skip list.
The whole Dana thing with the Eskimo brothers, right? Wasn't
he had some moments that kept him off my skip list for this year, but just barely. No, my pick is obviously Ariel Helwani's MMA show. Because it's
surprised.
A fucking trash fire TMZ fucking dumpster fire of a show. Fucking, oh, by the way, we have your arch rival on the line to comment on what you just said about him, but we're not going to actually question Ali Abdelaziz.
God damn it. Someone made a really fucked up joke. I think they said, like, oh, a fighter could literally talk about how, like, tragedy happened, like their father passed away. Oh, well, you wouldn't believe who we have on the other line.
Your dad.
No, not that. Your dead dad is on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Or just some shit. But yeah, the guy who killed your dad. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
God damn it.
He used to have such a decent show, and he used to actually ask interesting questions. I mean, he was always kind of a shill for Ali and his dudes, but like, Jesus Christ, bro. I just have no words. Like, I don't know, maybe do some journalism or something. I know that sounds crazy, but
I know, you did get a degree at a good school. So.
Oh, don't let Luke Thomas hear that. Everybody's been shitting on Syracuse University lately, Kid Nate and Luke Thomas alike. But Access Ariel doesn't mind. I don't know. I
like Ariel.
The reason why it's a skip for me is because it should be better. That show should be better than it is.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're not trying to put ESPN on a pedestal, but it's like, come on, you're fucking ESPN, like.
Yeah. Like the the motherfucker is doing like regular Sports Center updates and has had a like couple hour long awards show that he got to do on ESPN2 on New Year's for MMA, and yet your actual show consists of a bunch of hot trash. And then, like, every once in a while, he'll have a decent interview where he's like, oh, so, by the way, Rachel Ostovich, did Dana White ask you before or afterwards whether or not you are cool with fighting on the same card as Greg Hardy? She says afterwards. You're like, well, there's a fucking real question for once. And then he's like, oh, and on next, we got Greg Hardy. Say hi to Rachel Ostovich. Okay, maybe he didn't do that, but...
Yeah.
It's just... I
miss Brett Okamoto's 5 rounds. Not that one asshole that he had on there. That guy's annoying as fuck.
Well, yeah, I forget dude's name.
Excuse me, he's not an asshole. He was a little irritable.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he bugged the
shit
shit
Brett,
out of me.
So there's a big card coming up. This guy's fighting this guy. Let's mention Conor and Floyd for the 10,000th time.
I mean, it could be worse. Yeah. Kevin Iole could have a show.
Oh, yeah, touche, big time.
Oh, anyway, we'll keep moving on. But Ariel, we expect better from you, bruh. Go ahead and use that journalism degree. Don't. Yeah. And also, hey, real shady that you used to get a check from the UFC at Fox, and then you show up at ESPN, and the UFC goes to ESPN. I'm just saying, it's not a direct conflict of interest this time, but
yeah.
Anyway, so why don't we move on to better and brighter topics? Why don't you give us your can't miss episode for 2018? Sorry, not episode, show.
Show? You almost confused me. For me, just consistently what they do is as far as I'd want to say heavy hands because
I think that's
for me,
100% probably like
for
it's hard to
me,
deny what they've done,
as
especially
just
even changing hosts in the middle too.
Just as a sports junkie, when it comes to combat sports, when I used to actually enjoy the shadow boxing, don't get me wrong, the heavyweight division's fun again. So give credit to Tyson Fury, Joshua, and fucking Wilder. Thank you for helping watch boxing. Still, well, then there's the judging, so fuck me, right? Anyways, yeah, can't miss has to be heavy hands. As just a sports junkie, as a combat sports enthusiast, someone who likes to study the way people fight, and that's why heavy hands is up there. An honorable mention to Jack Slack as well. These guys do a fantastic job at breaking down the fights and really kind of analyzing the matchups, and that's what I wanted when I listened to an MMA podcast. If I wasn't doing one, say with you, I would listen to one where I want to hear what you think, who's gonna win, that kind of thing. That's like week in week out. Heavy hands is my can't miss. That's why I listen to those guys, and I think they do one of the best jobs at it.
I totally am in agreement, man. Yeah, like. The fact that they were able to roll from Pat Wyman as a host to Phil McKenzie as a host, and while the show changed dramatically, it's still an incredible show. Number one, that gives a big testament to how good of a host Connor Rebush is, and how good his repertoire is with both Pat Wyman in the past and Phil McKenzie now. Like, not many shows could survive that kind of a transition that seamlessly, and it really... While I do miss hearing Pat, it's still a fucking fantastic show, and I don't think it at all downgraded in quality. I think it just changed in kind of vibe, but it's absolutely incredible.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Perfect. And then my can't miss episode, you already knew it was going to be Collapse MMA. Who are you kidding? Yeah. Jordan Breen and TJ DeSantis talking about Phil Brony speed bagging Dave Monet's head while Dave Monet has terrible eyesight. Jordan Breen reading out fucking pays of fighters that were never disclosed because he found it on some sketchy website and then got confirmation from somebody. The fact that Joey Odessa is giving him odds for the time the fights were happening back in the day. Looking up old Sherdog articles and fucking wayback machining their way through crazy shit that was said at the time. Reading excerpts of Greg Savage at the bar with all the fighters after the show and crazy shit going down. Like, there's no cooler shit in MMA podcast than Collapse MMA. If you are at all care about old MMA events, or you were at all involved in the earlier years, or you just want to learn more about the earlier years of the sport, hands down, the coolest fucking show, without a doubt. Maybe it's because I'm a big fan of the Lapsed Fan podcast with Jack Encarnacio and JP Sorrow, which TJ also produces. That's like the pro wrestling version of this. Maybe that's why it means so much. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But I just think no one else is doing what they're doing. And the combination of the quality of TJ's production value and the weird inside knowledge that Jordan Breen and TJ will bring to shit. Not to mention they're having dudes like Jeff Sherwood come on and consult, talking about like certain, like kind of like how Dave Meltzer does on The Lapsed Fan. It's the fucking coolest thing happening in MMA podcasts as far as I'm concerned. So... yeah, that is my can't miss episode for 2018, and this was our 2018 MMA Podcast Awards from The Sound of Violence. I hope you guys enjoyed them. This is always one of my favorite things to do every year. I fucking love end-of-year award shows. Huge shouts out to Giant Bomb's Game of the Year Awards. If you go and listen to... This year was a little bit different in their format, but if you listen to previous years, like 2017 and earlier, that they've done... you'll kind of get where all this format came from that we'd used. Just because I think it's way more interesting to hear why people come to the conclusions for the awards than to just hear what the awards are. So I'm glad we did it this way.
I am glad too, man. This is fun again.
Yeah, and it was a good year in MMA podcasts, 2018. Like, just the amount of new shows alone was fucking incredible. And with all the chaos that happened... We didn't even mention all the crazy bus attack shit. It's been a wild year in MMA for sure.
Yeah. That it has, and here's to a fun, productive 2019. Let's hope there's not any other bus attacks or picograms or pulsing steroid users, whatever you want to call it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stay away from the air and picograms, as the Coast to Coast Combat Hour would say.
That's right.
But we will go ahead and wrap this here. We will be back this coming Friday for a breakdown of the first ESPN or first UFC on ESPN card.
Cool.
So we will be back with that. There will be one fight on that card that we will not at all talk about and we won't address at all. And I hope you guys appreciate that, because I fucking don't want to hear about that idiot. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this here. But Chris, is there anything you want to say to the people before we sign off for our award show?
Congratulations again to all the nominees, all the other shows that we mentioned. And if you felt like we forgot you or you should have been mentioned, we apologize, and please tweet at us.
Yeah, everybody, let us know the stuff that we're sleeping on. Because the one thing that helps us out a lot, dudes like Judo Bill, the dude here, let me pull up our Twitter. There's a dude who hit us up not that long ago and gave us some recommendations. Juice, the I fucks with Juice _MMA. That dude's been great. Let's see. JF757 has been awesome, giving some recommendations. I already shouted out Judo Bill, but I'm going to do it again because he's awesome. Yeah. So if Ghost or Grow Your Own, I think is his name on Twitter. All the people who have given us recommendations, we appreciate it greatly. There's too many shows for us to just off the top catch them all. So we absolutely love when you guys reach out and let us know what we're sleeping on. So please keep doing that. And here's to a dope 2018 in MMA podcast. Hope you all have a good one. And until next time, everybody, go do something decadent. Yeah. Bye.